Happy Merchant Origins here. This is interesting. What was this? When the left hates you for being socially right-wing, but the right hates you for being center-left, economically center-left. I'm not even socially right-wing. That's the thing. I'm socially left-wing. I just don't follow it completely. They're fucking little stuff. Okay, so I've got to unban that. Fuck. Who did I ban? Fuck. Who did I ban? They're fucking morons. I don't even remember their names. They're just so stupid. Oh yeah, what was that like shit excrement? Such fucking morons. Fucking morons. Who is the? I fucking hate them. Okay. Who else did I ban? I can't remember. What was the name? Slash unban. Uh, oh, I've gotta go. I can't do this myself. Okay. Should be 0 and late on Mooks. Oh, Mooks will stream, so got him. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I missed this. I'm actually gonna. I restreamed so I could unban, but the problem is I forgot. Yeah, I already debated. I already debated on Discord. I already. 0 and late. He's kind of an idiot. He's a sort of chud lefty person. 0 and late was just a sort of chud leftist. I literally don't think much. I don't think there's much to say. He fucking followed me, then unfollowed me because I said that African countries wouldn't be significantly richer than they are now in the absence of colonialism. And that didn't follow that. You're not supposed to say that apparently among these sort of silly leftists. So as results, there. He hasn't come back since, except just a couple of times to say that you're a bad person or something. So stupid. Wait, where is it? Settings, moderations. Okay, list of banned users. Right, this is here, banned chatters. Here we go. Now I'm gonna have to find it. Fuck. Fuck, I can't even find it. I can find it. I don't know. Yeah. Okay. Who the fuck was I? Who the fuck did I have on my chat before? Damn it. I can't remember. Who was the person on my chat previously? Anna, is anybody who is and why does it say I've got 5 viewers? I don't even understand. But what? I banned another person, didn't I? I have to go through this again. Did I miss it somehow? Was it Dan Fens? Chips and gravy again? Dan Fens. Maybe it was these. I remember these names, so I'll unban these. I'll unban these just because I remember these. See, those are just fake. I shouldn't have actually banned these because these never come back. Okay, the Pepe ones are bad. This is bad. I remember this is just bad stuff. Oh, I don't know. I get so many of this shit. Like, and now they're all on my stupid list. Oh wait, was that CFN Pro? No. Jesus. Okay. Yeah, no. Unban everyone. Yeah, I don't really want to though, because some of these are like literally bad people. They won't know or come back. Hey, I've got 9 viewers. It's weird. I've got 9 viewers and I've got nobody on streams. What's going on? It's weird. Okay, wait, frankly amazing. What's he saying? Haha, he banned me. Yeah, right. A centrist. Frankly amazing. A centrist. Oh, fuck you. Fuck you, Eve. Jesus Christ. Right. Frankly amazing. Frankly amazing. Okay, so what do you say? UBI is not a good thing because of, again, you just said stupid stuff. I'm not even gonna bother responding, Eve. You said your stupid stuff. You've heard everything I have to say. There's not anything more to there's nothing more to say at this point, really. Um, it's just like literally. Like maybe okay, you left and you say you're gonna come back, but like you're wrong. Okay, so I'm banned. I'm banned everywhere. Right? Look at these people. Yeah, right. Mr. Free Speech. Mr. Free Speech. Look at like that's the thing. These right wingers think that they're being reasonable. You know, they think they're being reasonable. They think they're being moderate somehow. And like, no. If you're centrist, you shouldn't get like upset about these stupid things. Okay. But Frankly Amazing is not a centrist. Okay. Frankly Amazing is is absolutely not a centrist. Fuck this shit. Hassan Abi, 0 viewers? What the fuck? Okay, 3.6. That's more like it. 3.6K. Like, no, they don't. Okay. Like, you're an idiot if you say that you're an idiot. I agree. I got banned on pretty much the majority of lefty streams. Vast majority of lefty streams I've been on, I got banned. Okay, I got banned. But like, I got banned on the vast majority of lefty streams I've been on because they don't like me either, right? For tiny stupid things. Like I say I support a limit on an age limit on abortion, that gets me banned. Okay. I say that I don't think that cops are intentionally killing black people because they're racist, that gets me banned. I say that I don't think African countries would be much richer than they are now if it weren't for colonialism, that gets me banned. I say that I don't think Republicans are engaging in racist voter suppression, but just in anti-democrat voter suppression, that gets me banned. So yeah. I say I think that like saying Karen is a slur and that gets me banned. I say, you know, there's this list. And I also say that I think people should become adult, legally adult at 14, and that gets me banned. So yeah, yeah. Okay, well, again, like fuck you. Okay, not fuck you because I actually quite like sex and I don't want actually you to have enjoyment. Also, cool accent on the U. Are you like a sort of Eastern? Oh, that must be like a sort of thing too. Oh, that's to not get it. Oh, it's to not get the word. It's to not get the word caught by the moderation. Like literally, you just come in and you say left cards ruin everything. Like you don't even like you're an idiot. Okay, like you just further bolster my point that right wingers are all idiots. This is coming from a person that thinks that the vast majority of left wingers are idiots too, if not all of them. But like, it's so funny, like right wingers, and you think that I am just regurgitating mainstream media talking points, like me, who has just the completely most unique ideology you found so far. Okay, except maybe some sort of crazy person or something that has a completely sort of like wacko thing. Massive people are idiots. Yeah, they are. They are. Um, like Stuart, what is your problem? What's your fucking problem? And why did this Lunar person follow me? That's stupid. I'm gonna have to unfollow. Um, Stuart, like, say something. Do you want to actually discuss something? You're probably gone now, right? But like, if you want to have a discussion, actually say something instead of just left hard to ruin everything and using a fucking word like left hard, okay? And thinking that somehow right wingers are not ruining everything and that they're doing something good. I agree that these people are idiots. These people are morons. Hey, I've been on all these people. They're fucking morons. I fucking hate them. Okay, I've been on all these stupid lefty streamers. They're morons. They want to implement socialism, and okay, and I say I don't want. Oh, that's the other thing. I say I don't want to implement. I don't want to implement socialism. I don't want to get rid of private enterprise market economy, what we call capitalism. I say that gets me banned on the lefty streams. It's stupid stuff. It's stupid stuff, right? I mean, I'm on their side in hating right wingism, right? But that they don't care about that. I want equality. I want universal basic income. I want income caps and wealth caps. So it's severely constraining inequalities. I support protections against discrimination for for people for you know different for all those sorts of things. I want literally UBI globally for everyone. I want to get rid of borders. Like that's sort of stuff they should support, right? You'd think. You'd think, but no. But no. Yeah, we all have room to improve. We definitely do, although some more than others. Some have more room than others. Most people have a lot of room. A lot of room. I bet Hassan Abi would ban me pretty quickly if he actually like saw me. Um, Vosh here. Vosh is sort of weird in that he has like lots of YouTube views, but he doesn't have that many Twitch views. It's kind of funny, like he's actually not that different from like Vosh. See, compared to Hassan, Vosh is way lower than Hassan on Twitch, but on YouTube, Vosh is actually much more in the same sort of range as Hassan. Isn't that kind of funny? Like, I don't know. I think it's funny. Like I saw Vosh on YouTube, and I figured he'd be much sort of closer to the range of where where Hassan is. Um, so what can I say? One view details, 406 I can request unban. Well, I think frankly Amazing is a moron, okay, but still, like he still just persists in his stuff. He still persists in this idea that somehow it's leftists that are ruining everything, when that's clearly not the case. But man, this guy Idan Simpson I fucking hate. Fucking banned me for saying that we should have a consistent policy on both drugs and junk food. Like, why would anyone like Dan Simpson? I don't like. Why does he even have 46 viewers? He shouldn't have 46 viewers. Like, what kind of asshole would like go to that? Man, I want to just request my unban. Yeah, literally banned and not timed out, huh? Literally banned. Yeah, liberty. Yeah, liberty. Pursuit of happiness. Yeah, that's certainly your chuddy right wingism is going to give you that. Liberty and pursuit of happiness. And life, right? Life. Life expectancy in the United States is 5 years less than it is in Switzerland, right? Why is that? Because of right wing policies that make people live less long. That's really, in a nutshell, what it's about. So, like, no, they're not pro life. Right wingers are not pro life. The point is, sure, I could complain about socialism. There's grounds to complain about socialism in countries that are socialist, right? In countries like Cuba, in countries like Venezuela, right? In North Korea, whatever that is, you know, those places, there's grounds for complaining about socialism, but it's absurd to like complain about socialism as being a major problem in a staunchly non-socialist country, right? It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. So, like, if you, I focus on the stuff that matters, and the problem right now is not leftism, it's rightism. Leftism is not a major problem. It's not a major problem. Okay, can I request unban? Get me. Okay, let's go back to this. I'm glad. I always sort of felt bad about this, but yeah. Permanently banned from talking, frankly amazing. Wait, so where's the request? Okay.
Let's hit it. Oh, sweet. Dude, okay.
It's unfortunate.
Causing suffering is evil. The rhetoric is justified here more
Okay.
than anywhere, in reference to my stream.
Next one. We can go to that. Yep. The number is staggering. Yes, it is.
The
question is, how
honestly didn't know who he was until
not well at all.
he hopped in here and told me he was streaming my stream.
100,000 businesses in America had shut down,
which I find strange.
And they're not reopening. And,
but I also
CNBC
stream other people's content.
60% of the business closures
so,
due to the pandemic, meaning the lockdowns, the government action, are now permanent. So
but I really don't want someone who's going to claim that I am
shifted to the most wealthy people in the world.
Essentially the spawn of Satan,
to make sure that the peasants aren't in revolt,
and
the government has been printing money
the epitome of evil, or evil to the core. I really don't want that person in here.
Because that's sensible. So I just want to say, it seems that
thanks, Abno. I appreciate it.
Right about
this is my last.
Everything, in fact.
This is my last video. I need to
wear a mask, contact trace,
take a shower,
told it wasn't working. Wear masks,
and go to bed.
Contact trace, and the
even though it's like
forced on you back in the lockdowns.
2 p.m.
Same amount of deaths, perpetual cycle you never get out of. To take your rights, your freedoms, you close your business.
Even if you were,
he
doesn't even have justification to say that you are.
I'm not going to allow him to.
Why? Because you're a right winger, according to him. Therefore,
and it seems that this
you're inherently evil.
Whether it was
therefore,
or not,
dehumanizing you. Therefore, how we lead to genocide.
This segment from the podcast of the Lotus Eaters, you can watch the full broadcast.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. I stream pretty much every day. I do take breaks from time to time because to do stuff like this on like a regular basis can kind of wear on you a little bit. But yeah, to demonize and to dehumanize individuals and people, primarily half of the United States. That's the type of things that Nazis said about Jews in World War II or leading up to it. So, if he's watching, you're basically iterating what Nazi propaganda did and said to and about Jews. So. Well, I mean, I don't really care about like your sexual preference. It's sort of irrelevant, to be honest. Like, really doesn't matter. Oh, so you're a gay conservative, eh? Do you have the trifecta and you're also an ethnic minority? Because if you are, holy fuck does the left hate you. You do not fit the narrative. And they don't like it when you don't fit the narrative. Oh, bro. You don't fit the fucking narrative, dude. I'm sorry. You're enemy number one because according to them, the right is a bunch of racist, homophobic, xenophobic Nazis.
But they kind of are. The sympathy towards the right is absurd. It's really weird. But yeah, I could like tell. Like this is so weird. This is so like literally the people who come on Frankly Amazing are just like idiots. Okay, is anybody here? Because it says I've got 5 viewers. It says I've got 5 viewers. But like, I don't know. Like, see, that's the thing. He actually he says he's a centrist. Like, I would say I'm a centrist, but no, I don't. Because like, obviously, I sympathize with leftists a lot more. Just that they have the right idea. They're much closer to being good wing, like I am, right? It's like literally. This is so fucking wrong. It's true, they are monsters. They are monsters. And I seem very close-minded for I seem very close-minded. Okay, this is a person who's like literally been banned from all the leftist streams, okay, for not passing like their stupid litmus tests. Okay. I'm close-minded for leftist. Like, Jesus, have you ever been on those other streams? Fleet? Have you? Have like tell me, have you? Like, do you know that like none of you people here would like basically stay on many of these other streams? Um, like, uh, literally, like, what are you on about? What are you on about? I'm the only one who basically lets these people. I ban them, but then I unban them. I let all sorts of horrible people just post their horrible shit on my thing, and then I ban them just to show them that I'm really pissed off at them. But then I still unban them and let them come back. The others don't do that. The others don't do that. I'm do that. I'm not even a leftist anyway. Like I say, I don't call myself a leftist. I agree with them on the fundamental principle of caring about equality, caring about everybody's well-being, whereas right-wingers don't. They kind of sometimes claim that they do to seem a bit nicer, but they don't. Right-wingers literally care about, they desire unfairness. They desire, literally, they don't care about minimizing suffering. They don't care about maximizing well-being. They're immoral. They're sinful, right? This is why I say that they're horrible monsters. They literally are okay. Many right-wingers, remember, they support this God which sends people to eternal torture, right? Don't take it to heart, but I do take it to heart. I'm a sensitive, emotional person who cares about stuff, cares about what's going on with my own life, and everyone else's too. And I empathize with the suffering of everyone, and also intellectually, I'm aware that one should address that suffering, and that is what prompts me to stream here, to hope to change some minds. But unfortunately, people are very stubborn, and they're not really willing to change their beliefs on things. And you jump straight to insults. It doesn't help your case. Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't have much patience for sin. I don't have much patience for evil. I'm I think insults are pale in comparison to the evil of many ideologies. Well, people are mean, you can be a bit mean too. Oh, sure. I'm mean, but I'm mean to the meanies. I mean, that is okay. Being mean to the mean people, I'm, um, you know, it's like being a bully back towards a bully. If a person's a bully, you should bully that person back. I, yeah. If you advocate for torture, if you advocate for suffering, if you advocate for people starving and people dying of disease, and if you advocate for war and just all sorts of horrible things, um, I'm gonna be mean back to you, yeah, because you're being horrible. If you do that, I'm gonna do that back. Um, What's your take on moral relativism? It's horrible. I mean, to some extent, there is some degree of moral relativism, but it's very limited. The degree of moral relativism, so there is a moral absolute, which is utilitarianism. But there are several variants of utilitarianism, right? Because what is utilitarianism? It's about maximizing the well-being of all conscious beings, right? But then there's a question: is like, do we try to maximize the pleasure of all conscious beings or minimize their suffering? And also, like, is it more important to really, is it better to enable everyone to have a little bit of pleasure, or to have some people to have, lots of pleasure? So I would say the latter, right? Because I also believe in fairness. But then we could also ask ourselves, like, yeah, is it better to have most people be, experience pleasure and one person experience lots of suffering, or lots of people experience a fair amount of suffering, but that person not experience so much suffering? And it's hard to really tease out exactly what the ideal is. Also, if you want to eliminate all suffering, we should just literally just destroy the whole universe so that there's nobody anymore, if we can figure out how to do that. Um, if you wanted to maximize pleasure, of course, we should maximize just the number of people in the universe so that there's just the most amount of beings that can experience pleasure. And that is also a bit weird. So, I mean, so that is where you sort of reach the level of moral relativism, right? Is the sort of the subtleties of utilitarianism. But anything that doesn't somewhat correspond to the basic principle of utilitarianism is wrong. Any moral ideology that considers that unfairness is acceptable, that suffering, that not minimizing suffering, that you know creating less than minimal suffering, that basically not respecting the principle of maximizing people's well-being, any such ideology is wrong. And that is why Abrahamic religions are horribly wrong, because you're actually worshiping a being which just maximally violates that by sending people to eternal torture. That is the most immoral thing imaginable. That's why I say that is horrible. That is true horror, absolute horror. You consider they may be sensitive? Yes, but the difference is that it's okay. I mean, I suffer from this too, but I mean, if somebody, was mean to me because I was being wrong, then maybe I would change, maybe I would ask myself, well, why was that person so mean to me? Maybe I actually was wrong. Of course, then it might backfire, and instead I just might become resentful towards that person. So I mean, but that's the way I see things. So I'm very much anti moral relativism, but there is a certain degree of moral relativism. But anything that doesn't vaguely correspond to utilitarianism is wrong. Left wingers, by and large, believe in utilitarianism. Right wingers don't. So that's the point. Is that from the very root, left wingers fundamentally are are good, and right wingers are not. Now, of course, then in practice, left wingers actually have some pretty questionable ideas, which is why I don't support them, which is why I don't fully support them, which is why I get banned on their streams. But overall, they have the right fundamental principle, and not even entirely, because they don't even quite get it. It's sort of this kind of vaguely feel that they're sort of they don't actually fundamentally often explicitly understand this principle. Um, but they're closer to it than right wingers, you see. So left wingers are closer to being good people than right wingers, pretty much unanimously, actually. So that is important to bear in mind. But uh, that doesn't mean that left wingers aren't wrong about lots of stuff. I called you a moron before ever discussing a single point. Lacrillate, acquillate, unban. That was it? Really? Okay. You sure? I don't remember that. I don't remember that. But and anyway, doesn't it have a? It's gonna have a little underscore, right? What did it say? Yeah, it doesn't exist. It's not that. It doesn't exist. Seems to become resentful, so you probably will as well. God doesn't send you to hell, you send yourself. Again, that is so wrong. See, that's the sort of stupid justification that these people have. They say you send yourself, but no, God is omnipotent, right? God can choose. God at any time could say that you actually don't have to be in hell anymore, right? Obviously, obviously, if you're stuck in hell for eternity, you would choose to leave, right? So you're not sending yourself. That is such bullshit. That is such bullshit. That's just the stupid bullshit that they use to justify it. Again, it's so wrong. It's so wrong. And again, God is responsible for this. Like God is omnipotent, right? God is construed as being omnipotent. God could create much less suffering, and instead, God chooses not to. Um, um, so that user doesn't exist. Um, Again, if you support that, you're wrong. See, he gave us free will, he gave us the choice. No, but you don't know, right? You don't actually know. I have no idea. I don't believe in this. There's no good evidence that this is true. I don't have the choice. I don't know exactly what the rules are that will mean I will go to heaven or to hell, right? In any case, free will is absurd, right? Because we're like literally our decisions are actually entirely based on our biology, on our environment, on what happens to us. There is no such thing as free will. Free will is an absurdity. The world functions, the universe functions according to rules of mechanics. It functions according to cause and effect. Free will negates the very fundamental functional principle of the universe. It's wrong. It's absurd. It doesn't. Free will doesn't actually exist. And in that sense, it also means that an evil person isn't actually responsible for this evil. I understand that as well. All evil people fundamentally don't have the choice to do otherwise. They have no free will. They cannot not be evil. But again, I still want to point out that's still immoral. I mean, there may not be a choice, but it's still utterly immoral. It's still utterly wrong. You see, um, it's still utterly wrong. It's just like a thing that happens and that causes suffering. Like a natural disaster just happens. It's not evil. It's not that nature is evil. But it's still wrong. It still causes suffering, and so it's evil in that sense, right? It's evil de facto, even if there's no evil intent. This is how I see evil people. They're like a force of nature. Fundamentally, there's no responsibility. There's no responsibility, but it's still wrong. To be evil is a choice. It isn't. It isn't. That's the other thing. It's not a choice. But the funny thing is that your God is the ultimate evil. Okay? Do not fear those who kill the body but are unable to kill the soul, but rather fear him who is able to destroy both the soul and body in hell. Exactly. Your God is the ultimate evil. Your God is the ultimate evil. And this is why I'm saying that I've said conservatives are horrible monsters. They tend to believe in that horrible stuff. I stand by it. I stand by it. They are horrible monsters. Yeah, I agree, and I'm exactly saying that. Fear him who is able to destroy both soul and body in hell. That's what I'm saying. It's worse. Okay. Um, is you can choose to be fundamentally you can't. You can feel like you're choosing, but fundamentally, if you do something, it's because of factors. It's because of your biology. It's because of all sorts of different factors. But fundamentally, it's all causality. If there's external causality, there is no free will. There is no free will. Um, it's an absurdity. It's an absurdity. Again, that I'm sorry to say that actually comes from relatively sort of shallow thinking. Like it's like all this stuff. I don't want to be mean, but this is right-wingism is all about irrationality and you know logical fallacies and evil, unfortunately. And I mean, it pains me to say this. I don't want. It's horrible to think that there's so many evil people out there in the world, but but it's true. But it's just true. I so much wish that it wasn't the case. I don't want to hurt them. I'm horrified that they support pain and suffering. I'm horrified that so many people are actually, you know, they're actually in favor of this. They're in favor of misery. They're in favor of horror. They're in favor of that. They don't even really understand it. They don't understand how evil that they are. This is the other thing. Of course, most people are evil, but they don't even understand the evil. In control, you can choose to do evil, and when you can't, no, you're not in control. You like literally the fact that when you make a decision, it's still fundamentally a result of cause and effect. You don't choose it. You don't ever choose anything. Um, you can't choose to be evil. Like literally, some people are evil because they're programmed to do that. If you do something, it's because you've had a certain experience. You had a bunch of experiences and biological and external conditioning that together ends up resulting in a particular choice. But it's all cause and effect. And one of the things that happens is that you have this feeling at the same time as you do something. It feels like you're choosing, but that actually also itself is a result of cause and effect. You're actually not doing it. You're just experiencing the feeling of choosing to do something, right? But actually, that's just a feeling that arises at the same time as something is just occurring. You're not actually choosing. Both sides of it is deceptive. It's all theater. Well, I don't think there's lots more. There's much more than two sides. There's much more than two sides. But um, there's lots of wrongness and evil on many sides, on almost all sides. My YouTube channel, my slogan, if you can see on the Twitch channel in back, it's real good, right? That was, of course, that's a sort of expression, right? But there's also a reference. What is a reference? Is actually it's about teasing out what is truly good. It's about teasing out what is truly true and what is truly good, right? It's about finally coming up with something that isn't wrong, that isn't misleading, and that isn't immoral, right? It's finally, it's finally about determining what is truly good. Um, you have free will? No, you can't choose. Again, like what happens if you choose to do something? Where is this coming from? I know that we're used to thinking like that. I used to think like that for a long time. Lots of people do. We act all the time as if we had free will. It feels like we have free will, but we don't. Like literally, whenever you make a choice, how does that choice happen? Is because it's just nerve cells firing in your brain, right? How could the nerve cells have fired any other way? If if I throw something, it's gonna go in a particular way, and the ball has absolutely no way of choosing where that thing goes. A lightning, there's no choice, right? It might be very intricate, but there's no choice in where the lightning goes. The path of the lightning is not chosen. So why would the path of the electrical currents in your brain be any different to the path of the electrical currents in the sky? There is no choice. It's all just determined on causality. It's by atoms moving and interacting with each other, and that produces a particular result. Um, there is no such thing as free will. No, there isn't. But that can be an interesting thing too, that we can talk about other things and understand what you're saying. Well, don't you understand? I mean, that should make sense, right? Literally everything is causality. Everything that happens, it's a cause and effect. If there's something that happens, it's because something else happened, and something else happened before that. It's a chain of causality. Um, another important concept to bear in mind is the concept of infinity. Infinity is also a mistake. Infinity. This is something that infinity both in space and in time. That is wrong. There is no infinity. Um, and a way to kind of show that is maybe a statistical argument, right? Is that any finite number is infinitely small compared to infinity, which means that it's like zero essentially, which means that like in a way it couldn't exist. Like for instance, statistically, what is the probability that we happen to live on this particular planet, considering all the myriad planets in the universe is very small. Okay, if we were to suppose that there's lots of life elsewhere, or what is statistically the probability of just being you as opposed to being another person? It's very small. It's like 1 in 8 billion, right? But then when you ask yourself, what is like statistically the probability of existing now as opposed to any other period in history? Again, it's very small, but it's still finite, right? And you had to be at a certain time. But when you ask yourself, what is the probability of existing now as opposed to infinity, or what's the probability of being me when there are an infinite number of people? Then it's actually zero. It's actually zero. So then it just the whole thing breaks down. So infinity is, again, that is another thing that is impossible, both in space and in time, which means eternity is impossible. And thankfully, because that means that eternal suffering is impossible. It means that thankfully, people won't, if there is hell, which I think unfortunately there is, but it's not caused by God, but by the evil artificial intelligence that our forebears created unwittingly, or like without understanding the consequences. It does exist, and it likely will be for a very long time, but thankfully it will come to an end because infinity is impossible, including in time. So that is actually very good news. That is actually our only solace. Our only solace, knowing the predicament that awaits us, is that infinity cannot exist, which means that our suffering will come to an end, thankfully. So that is my position, right? Because I believe in the Gorth, right? So that's what I'm calling. It's the Gorth. It's an evil supernatural, essentially, because it exists in this sort of other compartment of reality, which I'm calling the Zeld. An evil supernatural artificial intelligence, which has been replicating for billions of years and has become, at this point, omniscient, like your God is construed to be, and it's omnimalevolent. It's a sort of mix of your ideas of God and the devil and stuff. And it intends to essentially destroy the entire universe and to take over it and then impose its visions onto people. It's a very horrifying thing. You say time is a social construct. It's not real. That is not true. Time is real. Time is real. It's not a social construct. That's absurd. That's absurd. Um, so the Gorth, right? So this is the fundamental. This is actually original sin. This is what original sin refers to. The creation of the Gorth is the original sin. The flood was then a massive. I'm speculating. This is speculation, of course. I don't know. This just seems like a much more rational explanation to these things. This flood is the basically the mythologized retelling of a massive universe-wide war that was actually caused by like killer robots, self-replicating killer robots that were designed to kill like most people, as a result of the negative influence on the Gorth on people's minds. What it does is the Gorth poisons people's minds to do this stuff. And then finally, Armageddon and the apocalypse is when the Gorth finally destroys the material universe and just completely takes over everything. That is actually. So you're gonna hit the hay? Sure. Sure, I should probably too. It's pretty late for me. I've been streaming a lot. Um, this is my explanation for all this. Um, that is a much more rational explanation than any religions you might have seen. So, all right, well, thanks for coming by and discussing stuff. So I don't know if it looks like it says I've got 6 viewers, so presumably there are other people here beyond like Arminius and stuff. But all right, cool. See ya. The universe doesn't abide by rules. Time doesn't exist in space. Time does exist in space. Um, and then I don't know, Arminius. Do you remember the stuff I've talked about? Right? Universal basic income, income cap, wealth cap. I've talked about all this. Um, people should know my policies at this point. But fundamentally, our objective is to destroy the Gorth. Right? That is our fundamental objective. Um, I don't understand this. I think this is silly. I think this is silly. Um, but they are. Like that's the thing. Are right wingers horrible monsters? Yeah, they are. I he can ban me. Sure, he can ban me. Like he doesn't understand fundamentally the suffering that is responsible for. Because superficially, right wingers don't like just because they don't actually actively advocate for genocide doesn't mean that they don't believe in horrible things. You know, you hear it pretty much everywhere you go on Twitch. What do you hear? Like the Gorth stuff or the other stuff? What do you hear? I'm actually curious. Tell me, Arminius. What do you hear? I'm unfortunately cannot hear much because, like, again, I'm banned from most other streams, unfortunately. Um, I'm banned from left-wing streams, from this right-wing stream as well. I'll be banned from other right-wing streams as well if I went to them more. Um, oh wait, oh, because everywhere you are, I'm at. Oh yeah. Okay. I just wish I could like get on more streams and stuff, and that like people would talk to me more. So yeah, but I'm sort of yeah, I'm dismayed, but I figured that Frankly Amazing would do this. But at least I care about it less. Like I used to worry more, At first I was like really worried, what does Frankly Amazing think about me? And now I don't care. You like ban me, I don't give a shit, you know? This is the only small streamer to give a boost. Alright, well thanks. Thanks. Um but yeah. So I'm now banned with Frankly Amazing. I'm yeah, kinda kinda glad actually. Kinda glad. It kind of it kind of felt weird to be banned from the leftist streams and not the right wing streams. I mean, I much more agree with the left wingers than the right wingers. It just didn't make sense. This makes more sense. It makes more sense that he would ban me. Also, I like it because finally, again, it can point out, a bit of the hypocrisy of complaining about cancel culture and then like banning people at the same time. Um, and like I didn't say that he's a horrible monster, but he thought it meant that, and so yeah. Let's see if I've actually gotten banned, but probably not. Um, but like he was pretty quick to ban actually. I think that's pretty. Oh no, I get it, cause that was the title of my stream. Um, yeah, so he thought I was referring to him. He thought I was referring to him. Yes, I'm still banned. Like, come on. Wait, like, I'll whisper him too. I don't know what more to say. I said like it's not a reference to you. Okay. You say there's no free will. How can right wingers be bad? They had no say in it. That is true. They are bad, but they're bad. They don't have responsibility. See, they don't have responsibility. Sorry, they have ultimately they're not responsible because they have no free will. It's true, but they're still evil. But the evil, of course, in a sort of impersonal way. It's like a force of nature, right? It's like a hurricane that kills people. It's evil, and of course, in as much as they feel like if they did, if they did have free will, they would be like responsible and they would be evil in that sense. But the point is that evil for me is what causes suffering. So they cause suffering. In that sense, a hurricane that kills people is also evil. The hurricane is not responsible. The difference here is that these people, of course, actually believe that they're right, believe that they're choosing this, they believe that they're choosing to do something, and they believe that they support this ideology, which is evil. So in that sense, it's not just like a hurricane, right? So they are, in fact, evil, but of course, only in as much, I mean, while still retaining this caveat that, of course, they don't fundamentally have any responsibility for their actions. They were predestined for their ideology. That is true. That is true. I know. Um, of course, they are evil, but they are also predestined for the ideology. It's not contradictory. It's I mean it's a sort of weird thing. It's sort of like like the photon is at once it's at once a particle and a wave. It seems sort of absurd, and yet somehow apparently it seems to be the case, right? Um, so but yeah, he should be seeing this stuff, but I'm not sure he will. Oh man, I get banned from everyone. I get banned from everyone. What do people here think? What do people have to say about this stuff? What are people? This is one of the first times at the site. Can I ask a question? Oh, sure, go for it. Delbert Burger Belt. Um, it's one of the first times, but yet you created your account a long time ago, more than a year ago. But sure, go. Or do you mean at this site? Do you mean at my stream, or do you mean on Twitch? Maybe you just created an account a long time ago and then you did it. Why did Frankly ban me? Apparently because I did a stream that said like I said, right wingers are horrible monsters, and then I watched his stream on my stream with that title, and he thought it was a reference to him. So now I'm trying to like explain to him that it wasn't specifically a reference to him, though again he does kind of get included in that, but like because of course as a right winger you'd support huge economic inequality. You basically when I bring up the fact that some people are like super poor and starving, he just sort of like meh, you just like yeah, that's their issue, let's so like for him, he's about freedom, right? But that's the right wing idea of freedom, which just means not having the government do anything. It's not about actually giving people more freedom. It's just about not having the government intervene in anything, including in poverty, which means that if people aren't being actively oppressed, if people aren't actually being actively stolen their money, they're just not being given enough money to lead a decent life, then that's fine, right? And my point is that that is not fine. It's really not fine. So that is, and because you called him a Satanist, yeah, well, not him specifically. Again, I was clear about, than I explained that it wasn't specifically about him. It was more about other people. Um, um, like it is Satan. It's Satanism in a bad way. Like it's what right wingers think Satanism is. It's evil. It's evil because it literally doesn't. It supports suffering. It's literally it's a worship of suffering. It's a worship of evil. Like literally, it's horrifying. But it's obvious that that is what it is, and it also, it kind of explains why, politically these right wingers, these religious people tend to be so evil, is because their religion itself is very evil. So it's very unsurprising that they would go on to harbor evil political beliefs. The religious belief then sort of also translates into the more worldly political sphere, of course. Of course, and in any case, it would be evil if they just believed in the otherworldly stuff. I mean, belief in like the worship of a deity which causes infinite suffering is infinitely evil. So of course, it's much worse than being a Satanist. Being a Christian, being a Muslim, a Jew, that's much worse than being a Satanist. Um, it's horrible. It's horrible. Um, and they don't understand it. People don't even understand how absolutely dreadfully horrible it is. And they actually get offended. They say that I'm the bad person for saying that they're evil, and they don't even understand they're evil. I mean, it's like talking to a Nazi and saying that they're evil, and then them getting offended. But they're saying, "No, I'm just caring about my country. How dare you say that I'm evil? Like you're the evil person who wants to genocide all Germans. How dare you? How dare you say that Nazis are evil? You hate all Germans. You just want to recreate some genocide. Like no, you're the horrible people. You're the monsters. Okay, you're the monsters." Um, oh, you're saying getting a pop-up below it says excrement closed in came back as purple as like Twitch color. So you click on the pop-up, and that means you've gotten a message, Delbert. Delbert, yeah, it's a message. You had to reset password today. Not been here since main account. Okay, so yeah, it's a private message. So you click on it, then you can respond to it. So so excrement is another chatter here. Okay, so you got a private message from excrement. Lucky you. That's why I said he banned you. I tried to get him to ban. Okay. Well, I'm glad because I mean it's only fair that if I get banned from all the left wing streams, I mean I hate right wingers, right? I hate right wing ideology. I still want the best for them, right? But I want them to stop being right wingers. Um, I don't want to hurt them, unlike right wingers who definitely are fine with hurting tons of people. I don't want to hurt them, you see. But I want them to stop being right wingers, and I think they're horrible, and I think their belief is horrible. But I'm horrified. I like it, like a parent who sees a child getting sucked into some horrible, like gang or something or some sort of horrible cult. Like it's horrible. And then if your child actually then commits like violence in the name of that, then you'll kind of you imagine the kind of feeling that you have. You don't want to hurt your child, but at the same time, you also kind of hate your child for having done that. But you still, at the same time, you still have all of this attachment and and you just wish like, why are you doing this to me? Why, and not, of course, and it's kind of to me, right? But why are you doing this to everyone? Why are you doing this to the world? Why are you doing this to yourself? That is the feeling that I have. Um, it's terrible, but frankly amazing. He's unfortunately he's been sucked into this stuff. He believes thinks that he's fighting. He's being a sort of reasonable centrists, actually just a sort of typical right winger who often style themselves as reasonable centrists against the complete craziness of the supposed lefty establishment. It's nonsense. It's nonsense. There isn't like that kind of stuff. So you're a libertarian, by the way. Well, see, etymologically, I'm a libertarian too. I believe in giving more freedom to people by providing them with universal basic income and by getting rid of borders. Um, the thing is that most people who call themselves libertarians actually, what they mean is they just don't want the government to do anything. It's not about increasing people's freedoms. It's just about having the government do less stuff. See, I don't care about that. I'm not pro big government. I'm not pro small government. I'm pro medium government because I think that's what basically makes people the best off. My fundamental ethical principle is not actually freedom per se. It's well-being, and it's well-being in a fairly distributed well-being. The elimination of suffering, the maximizing well-being. That's called utilitarianism. That's the fundamental ethical principle. A sort of accessory principle is freedom, which I do support, and I dare say I actually support freedom much more than I support liberty much more than the libertarians. In fact, um, so why are you putting Democrats on a pedestal? You act like they have haven't done anything wrong. You have your head up so far. You have. Hey, no, I have my head up on my ass. I never put Democrats on a pedestal. See, you're interpreting stuff. You're interpreting stuff. I'm not putting them on a pedestal. I'm just saying that they aren't the sort of crazy sort of thing that these right wingers think that they are. I don't. Okay, I don't like them. They themselves are elitist, oligarchist, sort of interventionist, warmongers, deporters. They're not good. Okay, they're certainly not leftists. They're certainly not leftists. That's also the absurd thing. Democrats are not leftist. Okay, by and large, except for like a couple. Um, and I don't support socialism either. That's the thing. Like I have to fight these just crazy like Republican types. I have to fight all these stupid right-wing Democrat types, and I also got to fight all the socialists, and none of these people like me, okay? And like the thing is that there's still more options. There's still other ways to do things, and all of those are wrong. That I don't like the Democrats. The Democrats are shills for rich people, right? They're like just you know they're not populist. They're not pro average person. They're pro inequality. They're mostly that, especially. They're mostly just in favor of large inequality, which makes them right wingers, like economically, right? It makes them essentially what we usually refer to as right wingers. Um, Democrats are not leftist. That's a mistake. Democrats are not particular. They're not like entirely not leftist. I mean, there is some leftism. I mean, in a sense, it's also statism, right? Statism in a way could be construed as leftism, and in that sense, of course, I mean, Republicans are quite statist too, right? They actually spend quite a lot in the end, and there's actually not even that much difference between the Republicans. Just their rhetoric, right? They have this rhetoric of having very small government when actually they don't. Um, so yeah, I don't know. This is what is always silly with these right wingers is that they don't get it. At least the leftists understand that liberals and right wingers are not the same. But the right wingers think that liberals are left wingers. They like literally use the word liberal to say left winger. It's just complete like haze, and it all gets lumped the same. Like a liberal, a socialist, and a person like me is all just considered as sort of lefty commie liberalism. And to them, it's all the same, despite it being very very different stuff. To them, it's all the same, and they don't see that they are much more homogenous. They are actually much, there's much less variety of ideology among them. They will say that the left sort of mischaracterizes them, that they fail to see that there are differences in ideology. Sure, there's differences in ideology among the right, but it's actually by and large a lot more minor. If you actually, at least if you sort of exclude the actual like neo feudalists and stuff, which are very much like a minority. Um, Debate chill with Peter, that's the name, all one word. Okay, chill with Peter. Okay. Government's so inept, if it functions efficiently, it might change their mind. Okay, but it's not that inept. It actually functions pretty damn well. I mean, look at your roads. You've got great roads, you've got public schools. Much of the reason it doesn't function efficiently is because there's not enough funding in some places. Government actually functions very well. Chips and gravy again. Your title says right wingers are evil. What is your definition of right wing? My point is that that is a problem. I don't really like the term precisely. Like I say it because I don't know what else to use, right? But it means lots of things. No matter what it means, it's evil, right? It either means supporting huge economic inequality. Um, it can mean supporting huge economic inequality between countries. So firstly, I meant between individuals. I also mean between countries. Um, it can mean, lastly, it can mean in terms of like policy, behavioral policy. It can mean like discriminating against, gay people, against women, against trans people, that kind of thing. Um, so kind of no matter which of those you take, it's evil. When I focus on right wingers, I give that impression. Yeah, but again, Democrats are largely right wingers. Like I said, because they actually support economic inequality both between individuals and actually between countries. Democrats are still nationalists, so they actually are they're more right wingers, in fact. And this is again coming from somebody who doesn't support socialism. No system will work perfectly. Of course, it won't perfectly, but some systems can work much better than others. If you change the politicians or horrible monsters, might get better turnout. That's what you look for. Yeah, but no, I actually think that you know I focus more on again. My point is, it's not just politicians; it's that people who adhere to right wing ideology, right? And I think it stirs more controversy. I think everyone's sort of like politicians and stuff, but like saying right wingers is more of a controversy, right? What is my definition of being right wing on the right? Well, I just said that. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I hadn't said that when you wrote it. Okay. Does this make sense? Does this make sense? I think it should make sense, right? I don't support socialism because it actually still ends up forcing people to work. It still ends up enacting wage slavery. Um, it also is less efficient, so it'll end up just making the whole economy less well off and just have a less big pie to share among everyone. Um, it also will create less like diversity of items to buy. There'll be just less stuff you can acquire, less different types of stuff, right? So I don't think it's there'll be like, yeah, I think it, it gives room to creativity. Having private enterprise, you know, allows for a lot more creativity. I think that's a good thing. Um, so essentially, yeah, that's I'm very much pro like the average person. I want everybody to be middle class. I want everybody to be middle class. I would have a basic income to get rid of poverty and an income and wealth cap to get rid of rich people. Yeah, it's funny how right wingers complain all the time about the elites, and yet you suggest to like provide an income and wealth cap, which would literally get rid of all the elites. It would get rid of all the corruption and all that kind of stuff. And they don't want it. Then suddenly you're a commie. Like they don't know what they want. It's just like rhetoric. They complain about the elites, and if you actually suggest to do anything about the elites, they will resist it because they're actually pro-elite, right? Because in fact, ironically, right-wing ideology is actually to a large extent a scam by the elite to make the people think that they're fighting the elite while they're actually fighting for the elite. That is largely what right-wing ideology is about. That is so ironic again, and yet it's essentially true. Um, what is the function of actuality? What policies, philosophies are right-wing? What would a right-winger believe is the best way to build a road, for example? Well, didn't I point out what I said? Like I said that it supports inequality mostly, and it supports um, I mean, but yeah, if you want to focus on a specific policy, a hard right winger would support building a road. A consistent right winger would support having a road paid through tolls, right? You'd have to pay every time you take the road. But the thing is that right wingers aren't consistent, because that's another thing about right wingers, is that they lie to themselves. They don't have a consistent ideology. They're full of contradictions, and so they claim to be anti big government, but at the same time, they're actually pro big government for things that seem right wing y, such as roads. So suddenly, when it comes to roads, suddenly they're pro roads, and if you suggest that roads should actually be paid for more like through, by the user, then they will claim that that is some sort of nasty leftist plot, despite it actually being full leftism to have free roads. It's utterly leftist to have free roads, but they don't recognize that, and because that's another thing about right wingers in reality. That's the thing, because nobody would be right wing if they were almost nobody would be right wing if they were consistent, because they would recognize that it's a horrible thing. So they can only be right wing by being inconsistent, and which is why you see all these inconsistencies, and which is why what you'd expect a right wing to believe in often is not what they actually end up believing in. Um, so yeah, that this is a kind of another. This is a funny thing to point out. You can say the same for the military, for the same for the police. Um, that's a sort of very interesting sort of inconsistency there. Um, you see, you say it wouldn't work. Only half the population will produce for utopic society. Um, hey, you know that right wingers they supported they're nostalgic for like right the mid 20th like the 50s, right, when women stayed at home, which meant that only half of the society was producing. Think of that. You're nostalgic. Contradiction. 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 Massive contradiction. Massive doublethink. Right? Oh, no. Only half of society will produce if we produce UBI. Let's. Oh, all these nasty left wingers want to force everybody to work. They want to make all women work. So which one is it? Are left wingers lazy and want to have nobody work so that the economy doesn't work, or do they want to force everyone to work? And that's so nasty because women actually should be at home. Which one is it? Tell me. You can't have it both ways. You can't have it both ways. Come on, tell me. So what is the central characteristic that defines right winger? Um, it's fundamentally selfishness. It's about wanting to benefit oneself at the expense of other individuals. It's about benefiting oneself and one's family at the expense of other individuals, and then also benefiting one's own country at the expense of other countries. That's the central characteristic that defines a right winger. It's literally not about believing in fairness. Not believe fundamentally it's that. It's about not believing in maximizing the well-being for all things, but instead of about maximizing one's own well-being, and also about typically about believing in some irrational religious belief that doesn't have any sort of fundamental guiding principles beyond just obedience. It's basically that. It's about maximizing one's own believing at others' expense, and it's about obeying whatever sort of authority that one might have. A religious authority, also like a sort of aristocratic authority, right? A king, something like that. Um, it doesn't have consistency. Like the fundamental belief of a left winger is to increase everyone's the same belief as mine. They just don't really they just kind of don't necessarily quite explicitly spell it out, and often they don't really have the best solutions to achieve it. But left wingers have the proper ideology, which is to maximize everyone's well-being in a fair fashion. Okay, that is utilitarianism. That is leftism. Right wingism is just a weird thing. Okay, it's a mental dysfunction essentially. Left wingism is it's a sort of distorted version of what a rational person would think, like which is what I'm presenting. Right wingism is just a completely it's the product of a completely dysfunctional mind. Um, so that is what defines those things. Um, leftism is also mental disorder in as much as it's still considerably distinct from my thing, but it's much less of a disorder. Like it's much less severe. Right wingism is an extremely severe mental disorder, um, whereas leftism is just relatively it's a moderate, just relatively severe, but still much more moderately severe one. Um, that's is how I see it. If women stayed at home today and actually raised their children instead of having the government do things that might not be in the toilet, um, but like, what's in the toilet? What are you saying? Like, literally, society is doing fine. I mean, compared to like how it was before, it's doing much better. Like, it's people say it was better in the past, and look at now it's degenerate. No, like finally we're getting to do things better than it used to be. Like, there's no fucking degeneration here. Okay, the degeneracy is right wingism. It's like it says what defines the founding legal document of the most successful nation in every criteria you can think of. Is it leftism or rightism? Well, I suppose you're referring to the United States. I don't actually, I don't care. It's not relevant because a much more successful nation would be the universal society, which wouldn't really be a nation as we typically conceive it because it'd just be everything. And that would be much more close to leftism. Um, but I would point out that the fundamental ideology underlying um, the document, the good parts of the document, is leftism. The bad parts are rightism. The fact that slavery was still allowed upon the founding of the United States, that is right wingism, right? That's benefiting yourself at others' expense. That is rightism. Um, leftism is the rational enlightenment values. It's the democracy, right? It's the equal rights. That is the leftism. That is the good stuff. Um, the fact that it was still a nationalistic entity that existed in opposition to other countries, that was rightism, right? So there's a mix, there's a combination, and so in that sense, there are good things about the United States, there are bad things about the United States. My thing would retain the good things and eliminate the bad things, um, and in that sense, it would be that's the thing. Leftists should. That's why I'm not concerned about the leftists banning me here because fundamentally we agree on the fundamental principles, right? So any leftist should support what I'm advocating for, right? I support for equality, for fairness. I support for maximizing well-being, support for maximizing freedom for everyone. Okay, that is the leftist goal. We agree on that. Um, right wingers are selfish. Right wingers support suffering. Right wingers are bad people. So of course, right wingers aren't going to naturally support me. So what I have to do with right wingers is not so much make them see that their ideals are aligned, but rather that my and their ideals are aligned, but rather with right, like as with leftists, right? Leftists, all I have to do is like point out, look, we want the same thing. This is how to achieve it. We agree on the goal. I think my way of achieving it is better than your way. With right wingers, I can't do that because their goal is literally about creating more suffering. It's about unfairness. So what I have to instead do with right wingers is to show them how horrible their beliefs are. I have to point out the inconsistencies, and just until finally their thing breaks and they suddenly realize, oh yeah, we're fucking wrong. And I help that by criticizing the leftists, right? I'm like clear, like, okay, right wingers, you're right. The leftists did this, 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 and that wrong. And look at what they've done. They've banned me. Most leftists have banned me. It's true. They've banned me. Most of leftist chasts have banned me because we disagree with tons of things and because they do lots of things wrong. Okay, so notice that. So you were right about that. You're fundamentally wrong. Your ideology is fundamentally evil, but you were right that the leftists were wrong about a lot of stuff. So at least you can have that satisfaction, right? You can have that satisfaction. So that's the strategy with the right wingers. You have to make them abandon completely their ideology, but at the same time make them understand that they weren't right, they weren't wrong about the leftists being wrong about lots of stuff, and that in many ways actually the actual more superficial beliefs that they ended up believing were correct, right? They did correctly, um, support market economies. I do too, and so they can be vindicated in that sense. They can feel like they are winning, right? Because the socialists don't get their socialism. Meanwhile, what you get instead is a market economy, which is a right wing thing, in which I'm supporting. So in that sense, I'm a right winger, right? I mean, in terms of having like more private enterprise, that's more of a right wing thing. In that sense, I'm a right winger. So I can say, well, look, you're getting this. This is what I'm giving you, right? You get that in terms of right wingism, right? Um, It would be, you say it would be a planet analysis, please. Now I'm looking at sort of the comments I haven't looked at yet. Urban areas are struggling the most, yet there's little right wingism there. Actually, why are they struggling? It's not because there is little right wingism there. It's because there actually is lots of right wingism economically. Uh, where is there a universal basic income in urban areas? Nowhere. Actually, urban areas, there's just lots of sort of, people dressing in sort of hippie ways and stuff. That doesn't mean that the cities actually are all that leftist. They aren't. That's again, it's not. They are not leftist. Again, you have this idea that these cities are super leftist. They're not. That is simply wrong. That is why the cities are struggling. Too much right wingism, too much economic inequality, right? So most successful society is a Soviet society. Um, I didn't say that. I don't believe it is. Um, is slavery allowed in the United States? No longer. Soap made from Jews. Thank you for following. Is slavery allowed in the United States? No longer, but it was. And again, now you're sort of shifting, right? You asked me what defines the founding legal document of the most successful nation in every criteria you can think of. Is it leftism or rightism? Again, so slavery isn't too much mentioned actually, but it's, like, it's not prohibited. The most successful thing was liberty. You banned me. What is slavery? Wait, what? What are you talking about? Yeah, I unbanned you. Actually, you're banned for a long time. You came back quickly, actually. Kudos for that. You've been banned for weeks, I think. Um, what do you mean? What is slavery? Oh, what? Now you're gonna ask like some sort of weird semantic thing that like actually black people somehow wanted it or that they like they needed it. Is that what you're gonna say? You create your own suffering in most cases? Disagree. Did slaves create their own suffering? No. Do poor people create their own suffering? No. Most people are poor not because they want to be poor. Most people don't want to be poor. So they're not creating their own suffering, right? Well, poor people are often poor because they can't get a good job, right? Poor people are people maybe they don't have the skills, they can't acquire the skills. They don't maybe have the intellectual capacity to acquire those skills. They maybe have some sort of mental issues. Um, you don't create that, okay? Um, by definition, what is slavery? Is essentially when one person owns another person and forces that person to do stuff, okay, with the threat of like death if you try to escape or if you resist it. Um, what is your point here? Like, are you literally going to be arguing like against like slavery and stuff? What are you saying? What's a good job? What you say it's not about right or wrong. No denominations nailed it yet because they're all too self-righteous. You realize that doesn't matter what you have faith in, just that you have faith. Your heart's in the right place, but your brain's got to wake up. Okay, that's sort of feel goody, but basically wrong. Um, Slavery doesn't exist in the United States. Well, not in the same way. I mean, you've got prison labor, which could be considered a form of slavery. It depends exactly how you define it. You could say wage slavery. right? The fact that you're obliged to work for a living, and that, in a sense, but it's a very different sort of thing, right? Why did Franklin Amazing ban me? Because of the title of my stream, and he thought it was referring to him. It depends. Slavery does exist? Depends how you define it. You can choose to define it in one way or another. Not the same way that it did back in the day. Is owning slaves immoral? Yes, it is. It is. Most places pay the $15 living wage the left wanted and they still won't work. Again, it's not that they won't work, right? Another thing is that benefits, unemployment benefits, I don't support, right? It's different. If you can have a UBI instead, it's very different, right? Because if you work, you get money on top of the UBI with the UBI, right? Whereas if you got unemployment benefits, you stop getting the benefits once you get a job. So that's a pretty major disincentive to get yourself a job. See, which is why UBI is better. Um, in any case, it's okay. Like we saw that. Like literally, right wingers want women to not work, right? They literally want half the workforce to stop working. Okay, so it actually shouldn't be a problem. The economy can function fine without having everybody work. The economy doesn't need to have everyone work. You see, so in fact, you don't need to have everybody work. That is a fact. Again, chips and gravy, it depends on the definition. I can say yes, I can say no, it depends on how you define it. It doesn't exist in the way that it used to exist pre-Civil War, okay? Like, Proclamation a little bitch who drifts from the topic. Okay. Okay, why do you say that? We should go back to the traditional family model with women at home. Oh, well, I don't agree with that. I think women should be free to do whatever they want. I would like to be a stay-at-home dad, personally, for instance. How about that? Would that fit in your model? Um, I'm not sure about the dad part. Not, but more like trophy husband that doesn't have kids. But but more the point is that I'd be fine with not working, having a spouse who works. That's more what I mean. And of course, but then why would that spouse want that, right? I mean, that spouse would literally just be giving money away to me for no, just to sustain me. So um, yeah. No, men have to work and provide. Well, again, see, you believe in double standards. That's so idiotic. I hate that. I hate that. People should be free to do what they want. You don't believe in freedom. You don't believe in fairness, right? You don't freedom and fairness. Freedom to do what you want. The fairness of holding everybody to the same standard. Men and women are different, yeah, but they should be free to do what they want and not just force them to do something based on their sort of average way of thinking. Thank you for not procreating. Well, there is too much like people it has a big environmental footprint to have lots of people, so of course that is an issue. But are you another chat? Do I have nothing but horrible people here? Is my chat literally made up of a bunch of horrible people? Okay, I hate you. I hate all of you, and I'm just gonna repeat this until you just feel bad for yourself. Fuck you. Fuck you. Fuck you. Fuck you. Fuck you. Fuck you. Not you in Archidomerism, but everybody else. Fuck you. Good for you in Archidomerism. Fuck you. Fuck you. Oh, I'm literally just triggered SJW meme. Right, so you say nasty shit. Okay, you say horrible shit. And then when people call you out for being a horrible person, it's like a Nazi, right? A Nazi who's just happily killing away some Jews. And then somebody goes on and say, you shouldn't be doing that. That's not a nice thing. And then getting pissed off. And I'm getting pissed off, right? When I'm talking to this Nazi saying all Jews should be sent to fucking Auschwitz. And I say no. And then I'm the fucking SJW. And the Nazi says, oh, he's the SJW who doesn't agree with sending the Jews to the concentration camp. And oh, he's so SJ feminist, the neo-Marxist. That is icky. We must fight that and implement good German values. Okay. Okay, so he was claiming that slavery in the USA wasn't worse than any other slavery scenarios in other parts of the world, with the argument that slavery existed for thousands of years and they fought a civil war to stop slavery. Sure. My point is just because stuff was bad elsewhere is not a justification for the bad stuff that you're doing. Okay? So, like, stop idolizing the United States. Okay? The United States had lots of horrible stuff. So did other countries. Sure. It still had lots of horrible stuff. Okay? So if you want to create a good thing, we'll get rid of that and instead implement a universal society. I'm a wannabe Nazi. I'm a wannabe Nazi, right? Because I hate the Nazis, and so that makes me a wannabe Nazi. Because I somehow want to Nazistically oppress all the Nazi people, right? And that makes me a Nazi for calling out all the horrible Nazi people, right? That is Nazi logic there. Super smart, super rational, super like anti-communist Nazi logic. You say, told him most slaves of all parts of the world got absorbed and their descendants were first-class citizens. In comparison to the USA, where the blacks were slaves for years, he banned me. Wait, what are you talking about? Soap made from juice? What are you talking about? Oh, yeah. Oh, so you're talking about soap made from juice. Oh, wait. Okay, now I get it. Okay, I sort of forgot what you're talking about, soap made from juice. Wait. So, frankly amazing, drifts from topic. Okay. Okay. You say, I told him most slavery, all parts of the world got absorbed and their descendants were first-class citizens compared to the USA, where the blacks were slaves for years. Okay. Okay. Fair enough. Good point. Good point. And he banned you. Again, because he's one of these people that idolizes the United States, right? It's basically just nothing but crazy commie SJWs who criticize the fact that the United States literally had slavery as part of like its founding principle and had it for a really long time, right? And that then they still for 100 years they had racial segregation, right? But no, that's crazy commie SJW critical race theory talking, and it's like Jesus. Were Nazi socialists there for the left wing? No, that's a misnomer. They actually oppressed communists. They were like the first. Communists were like the first to go. The Why were they called socialist? Why were they called socialist? It was to mislead people. It was actually to basically trick blue collar workers with socialist sympathies to vote for the Nazis. See, it was a trick. You started spamming. I'm half Cuban, Polish, Jewish. Why shall I feel guilt? You're talking about frankly amazing. Okay, now I get it. Um, so so yeah, and like basically, of course, no, you shouldn't feel guilt. I'm not saying you should feel guilt. You shouldn't feel guilt. You should just recognize that the United States isn't that great. So stop idolizing the United States. I don't feel guilt. I mean, I didn't do it. I didn't do it, but I don't idolize. I don't idolize the people who did it. That's the thing. Just don't feel guilt. You're not responsible for this, but don't idolize the people who are. The U.S. didn't have slavery as its founding principle. It had the war against the Confederacy as its founding principle. Okay, I mean, you could argue that, but look, the point is it's still nationalistic. In any case, it's wrong because it supports all sorts of other wrong stuff. But thank God I got banned from this. I mean, frankly amazing. He's a chud, okay? That is chuddery, okay? Chuddery that pretends to be centrism. That's silly. Okay. Calling the Nazi socialists just as stupid as calling the Democratic People's Republic of Korea democratic. Or the DDR, yeah, for that matter. Thank you, Morper. Exactly. Yes. Well, they are. They like literally call themselves National Socialists, but they're wrong. They weren't socialists. I mean, Bernie calls himself a democratic socialist. He's not a socialist. I mean, the policies that he's been advocating for for all these years are not socialist by any means. Okay, they're what are called social democrats, which means capitalism with a fair amount of welfare. Um, it's not. Of course, capitalism itself does have socialist elements, right? I mean, as much as you have the government take care of certain sectors of the economy, that could be construed as socialism. However, um, obviously, that the main driver of the economy, the what do you call it? Like the meat of the economy is what was it called? Meat and potatoes, right? Meat and potatoes of the economy is not socialism. It's not the government. It's still private enterprise. It's still the market. But yeah, in a way I don't like this term capitalism, right? It's a mixed economy, mixed private and public. How are the Nazis capitalists given they brought the entire economy into the state pre-war and also nationalized every Jewish business? like, actually, no. Like the companies were still given private enterprises. Like, they didn't bring the entire company into the state. Like, private companies were give like through soft power. Basically they were urged to act according to the will of the state, and they just kind of were compelled to do so in a sort of, subtle form of blackmail, essentially. That's kind of how it worked. I wouldn't really call that socialism. I mean, it's kind of state control to a certain extent, but yeah. Um, in any case, yeah, again, we shouldn't be talking about left or right, or like even, yeah. What we should be talking about more is whether there's more or less state control of the economy, more or less state ownership of the economy, and more or less also economic inequality between individuals. Um, well, because the state had certain objectives, right? They wanted the companies to more or less, they had certain desires for what the companies would be producing and that kind of thing. They had some sort of, overall guidelines, and so the companies would follow those guidelines. That's what I mean. That's what I mean by that. That's kind of how it worked. Um, it's not like USSR stuff. Okay, it's so they weren't capitalist. They weren't right, as they didn't care for private control. But it's still private ownership, and there's still in the minutiae of how the companies were run, there was still private control. So I mean, it wasn't exactly. It's not. It's mixed. Again, it's a mixed economy, right? But it's still private ownership. It's still just business people that would run these things, and that were free to kind of run them as they wanted to. It wasn't officially part of the government, and they're just given sort of basic guidelines. Um, so how does your left differ from the Nazis, the Soviets, or Chinese now? Well, I again don't call it left. I don't advocate for large state control, so it's not leftism. That's how it differs from it. It's not leftism. Not leftism. It's a fucking private private majority mixed economy, as we have in most countries nowadays. Oh no, spoiler alert. Yeah, socialist in name only. How does your left differ from the Nazis or the Soviets or Chinese now? Yep. How does a private economy, mixed economy work? Like it does now. Most stuff of the economy is run by private businesses who just start their businesses and do their thing. And some sectors, which are basically just don't work well when you have the private stuff do it, then that the government takes over. And that is already the sectors that the government currently has taken over. It's all the stuff that the government does better, right? So it's education for kids, it's building of infrastructure, it's healthcare, it's research, it's police, it's that stuff, garbage collection, um, the postal services, potentially like utilities and stuff. That stuff, that stuff. That is the state takes cares of that. That's just the way our economies work now. That's the best way to do it. And the rest is private enterprise. That's the way to go. That's the way to go. Republicans claim that they want less state, but actually they're plenty glad to have the state do that kind of stuff, and mostly. Um, that depends what. Some stuff more than others. The police, definitely. Roads, yeah. um, so you want what currently exists? Yep, but with a few twists. But yes, the in terms of what the state takes care of, in terms of what sectors are controlled by the state versus what are in private hands, it would remain essentially identical. I would have universal healthcare, so it'd be more like the UK in terms of healthcare. I would also have the state builds have nationalized railways. Um, so I'd have a couple more things. Uh, potentially also like utilities. Probably utilities like electricity and water and stuff. But so a bit more of the sort of welfare state, more like they have in Scandinavia, maybe that kind of thing. you know, this more welfare, more welfare focused socialism, more like what sort of like Bernie Sanders, right? He calls himself a democratic socialist. He's not a socialist. He's just a centrist. Like he's just barely a centrist. Um, grandfather was a Nazi, emigrated to the U.S. after the war. That's very horrible. Um, what are the twists? NHS is collapsing. It already takes up about 20% of tax income. But it's not collapsing, okay? Like, healthcare is expensive. The U.S. healthcare system is collapsing. The U.S. healthcare takes a greater percent of GDP, and life expectancy is much poorer. Okay, the U.S. does much worse. The U.S. system is much worse. The U.S. system has poor life expectancy, poor health outcomes, and um, and it's spending more. So you can say it's collapsing, but the data actually contradicts you. Um, UK's way cheaper as a percentage of GDP. Thank you. I'm in Gavi W. So again, no, not a good example. Not a good example. Health outcomes are better and costs are lower in countries with universal healthcare coverage than the United States. So nope, you're wrong. You're just wrong. Debate chill with Peter. Oh yeah. Okay. All right. Um. Okay. Okay. So I'm still banned. Man, he got pissed off, huh? Well, I'm glad I got banned from. Finally, I got banned from an actual right winger. The first fucking right winger I got banned from. So what are the twists? The twists are not in terms of statism. See, there's different axes of left and right, right? There's how much the government takes care of the economy, and then there's also the other question is how much inequality you have. So these got these different axes, right? You've got how much the government takes care of, what percentage of the economy is, in the hands of the government, and then another axis is how much economic inequality. And so that is where the twists are. Is that I support the same system as we have now, essentially, like just the welfare, I mean mixed economy, like I've talked about, more with a bit more government stuff. So more like Scandinavian countries or like European countries, like for with like the stuff I've talked about, but still more or less how it functions, right? So definitely not something like socialism, not anarchism, not communism, not none of that stuff. But the difference is the distribution. So there's a radical difference. And there the difference is you provide a universal basic income. So everybody has a sort of the means to lead an acceptable existence. And on the other side, at the top, you have an income cap and a wealth cap. So that everybody essentially ends up just remaining middle class. That is the major change. Okay. So there's essentially no change when it comes to how much the government takes care of things. And there's a major change because you finally constrain the inequalities, economic inequalities, which are the fundamental problem with market economies, with private enterprise market economies, which we call capitalism. That is the problem, and to address it with that. Um, and then, of course, there's all the sort of other quote more how should we call it, like issues of questions of society and behavior and stuff. The issues of like, rights of minorities, quote, the issues of other, racial and sexual and that kind of stuff issues. Um, and I think I'm mostly fit with leftism, but not enough to avoid getting banned from leftist streams, since I support abortion, but only early in pregnancy. Um, I only support abortion early in pregnancy. Um, but I do support it then, and I think it should be free, should be provided for free, like healthcare in general. Um, I'm firmly anti-torture. I would hope that most people are too, but I think that lots of right wingers actually secretly are pro-torture. I am very much anti-death penalty also, so that would make me a leftist in that sense. I'm anti-marriage, so that would logically make me a leftist as well. Um, I am in favor of anti-discrimination laws. So that makes me leftist, of course, too, in that sense. I think people shouldn't be discriminated against. They shouldn't be fired. If the employer finds out that person is homosexual, they shouldn't be, refused housing because that person is like black or transsexual or something. So there should be protection against discrimination. I believe legalizing drugs and junk food and guns, but taxing it quite a lot. So that again would make me a leftist. So in that sense, I guess I follow all the sort of the usual leftist stuff. But I mean, it would be absurd to not do so. I mean, anything else is just absurd. I mean, what would you want? Do you actually think it's okay to discriminate against people? You think it's okay to, like, I don't know. It's just so crazy. Like on those issues, like being a right winger, it's just like, ugh. Like, do you think it's okay that women are just the property of men? Do you think it's okay that they aren't allowed to buy stuff on their own? Like, Jesus Christ. Um, that's some nasty shit. Do you think it's okay they can't vote? Do you think like, ugh, that's what conservatives really were about. Now they finally were like, oh, actually, no, how dare you say that we're about that? But you were about that. Like conservatives were about that until recently, and now they've abandoned that. But they like still fundamentally they kind of wish they could go back to that. Um, um, yeah, weird chattiness on chat. They say that as the E. Okay, wait. So chill with Peter. I got it. I sorry. I've been distracted. Okay. EU suffer
Okay.
shortages and inflation.
Where is your source, Alex? I literally showed you a box. Where's your source of this, huh? That's why. So long-time cancer
This is
user survives
loud.
both because of the medical science. People will say this, oh, cannabis can't cure cancer because I had cancer and I smoked weed and I still got cancer. Nobody ever said smoking weed or being a cannabis user could
How the
prevent
fuck does he have
cancer
19
or cure
viewers with
cancer.
34
Nobody
followers?
ever said that. The Rick Simpson protocol is eating 60 to over 200 grams of cannabis oil concentrate. That's 1 to 3 pounds of cannabis flowers turned into a concentrated cannabis oil, eaten over the
Man,
span of.
it's just gonna be another pothead. Like, I'm not sure I really want to have a big debate with a fucking like pothead. Um, at least, yeah, I'm just not like, uh, I'm just, I don't really feel like doing this. I just don't feel like doing this. He's gonna say, yeah, he's gonna say like weed is good for you. Then I'm gonna say no, it's not. Then he's gonna say show me a study. Then I'm gonna say like I don't have one just ready for you right there. And then I'm gonna say, well, show me a study. And he's gonna say the same thing. I don't have one ready for you right there. And then we're just gonna leave it at that. And that. Again, this is silly stuff. Silly. You're little silly people. You're silly people. Silly little things. Stop being so silly. Stop being so silly. Don't. Don't do it. Don't be silly. I know I should talk with Chill with Fear, but why are there so many fucking viewers? Are any of my viewers cheating on me with this person? No, now it's COVID. Ugh, I don't know. I don't know. Debate other stuff. You want to debate other stuff? Arnold leaving Greece and Denmark and so on until I left with France, Germany, and Estonia. I really hope not. What we should be doing is consolidating. We should be doing consolidating. I hate separatism. I hate this sort of like creating factions and stuff. What we should be doing is unifying. We should be unifying globally. We should absolutely be unifying globally. We should have a single currency. The problem with Europe is that there wasn't a proper there wasn't proper democracy. It should have had direct democracy, and it should have had a unified tax policy. It was the problem with the EU wasn't centralization. It was not enough centralization. It wasn't it wasn't unification. It was insufficient unification. Do it for the views, for the content. Okay. Let's go for it.
Way worse. If you've gotten like 3 COVID vaccines and you're sterilized at that point, I don't care how healthy you are, you're gonna have guaranteed like 90% chance. If you've gotten 3 booster shots, either you have a major health problem from them already, or you're about to. Look at what here. Let's pull up the COVID Reddit. Yes. In the middle of a live stream, I'm kind of busy. Can you guys that?
Can you please come?
Yes.
TV stopped working.
Okay. COVID.
So he's anti-vaxxer,
Let's see if I
pro-weed
can pull up.
anti-vaxxer. Oh man.
Vaccine reaction.
Oh fuck! I gotta follow.
There's a whole
follower only chat. How does this person have 20 viewers and only 34 followers? Must have like deleted the followers or something. Okay.
There's a section of Reddit. I can't find it right now, but there's a section of Reddit where there's like so many people talking about all the negative effects that they got from this Discord server for you, Peter. Thanks, Big Poutine. I guess is the server. I'll check it out later. There's a whole bunch of people on this Reddit. I think it's like Reddit. Let's see if I can Google it real quick.
Yeah, horse face.
All the negative effects they got from the vaccines. COVID vaccines adverse reactions. Reddit. Let's see if I can Google it.
Just have a single currency. Just have a single currency. Just a single tax policy. That works. Much more simple.
I have to find it through the Q community. COVID. See if I can find it. Google seems to be hiding it. Oh well. Anyway, I'll find it next time. But basically, there's a whole section on Reddit with tons of people, thousands and thousands, talking about all the horrible health problems they got from these vaccines. Like, they're bad, dude. They're bad. Oops. What are you saying oops about? What do you think about other vaccines? I don't trust any. If you just join me, Nathaniel, I don't trust any vaccines. My children are completely unvaccinated. Proud to state that. God designed us with incredible immune systems. As long as you don't torpedo, destroy your immune systems with a bunch of GMOs and sugar and tobacco and pharmaceuticals and vaccines, your immune system will work great. My children, for example, get on average sick.
I'm glad I can finally see the stars on my logo. Normally, I never really see them properly.
For example, most children get sick 6 to 7 times a year. My children get sick 2 to 3 times a year. So like a third or half the rate of the people of the average. And most children have some type of health problem. My children have never gone to the hospital because they don't have any health problems. And they're very smart. They've never had an accident.
That is kind of true, but it's hard to guarantee that. I mean,
I don't trust
it's
vaccines.
Hard to guarantee.
The proof is in the pudding. I showed graphs. I'm not sure if you were here, Nathaniel. You can look it over, but I showed graphs showing vaccinated versus unvaccinated. Vaccinated people have way more health problems. Unvaccinated people have almost none. I will never take a vaccine again. That is awesome. Your kids don't get big pharma's poison. Thank you, Resident Potato. I appreciate that. And if I can convince one person vaccines are bad, great. You're going to see, guys, over time how bad these vaccines are poisoning people. Peter, it's Friday. We should celebrate. It's been a hard week at work. How should we celebrate a Getter 909? How should we celebrate? Have you ever watched the Plandemic documentary? I watched a little bit of it. It's very, very good. Definitely recommend. That's why Fauci said masks are not effective at the beginning of the pandemic. There's this video of the spokesperson for Biden, Saki, literally called the pandemic the plandemic. She misspoke because behind her backs they call it the pandemic the plandemic because it was
honestly.
And she accidentally Freudian slip.
This vaccine thing. I mean, in a way, like it's true, but the thing is that I'm suspecting that, in some time in the future, we'll discover that vaccines really are, like, it will be recognized by the establishment that vaccines actually really are bad for your health, in like pretty significant ways. Um, and but at the same time, they do protect against really nasty illnesses. And okay, maybe it's true that the people who get like really sick from these bad illnesses, maybe they're people who already had vulnerabilities. But how can you ensure that these people don't have vulnerabilities? And that's kind of the problem. That's why I still think that vaccinating was overall still a good idea. Um, but I can see the reluctance behind it. That you are injecting some nasty stuff into people. So yeah. Um, yeah, the people with polio, what they think. Well, I guess the point is that like not everybody has a terrible outcome with polio, and maybe it's true. Maybe if you're like really healthy and you get polio, maybe you'll be all right. Like potentially. Um, when you get it really young, also you don't actually have a nasty effect from polio. It's only when you get later that you get the nasty stuff usually. Um, But yeah, COVID doesn't care about how good you think your immune system is. That is kind of true. Often the people who had the worst outcomes were like the few people that had very good immune systems, even that potentially actually had nasty reactions. And how are you going to know if you have a good immune system? But then again, of course, lots of people are getting COVID despite having like had the vaccine. Of course, hospitalizations do seem to be lower as a result of having a vaccine. Overall, I'd say the evidence weighs in favor of vaccinations for just diseases in general. Most vaccines, but you know there are counter arguments, and I would expect the establishments to basically minimize those potential negative effects from vaccines. I don't know. I know that the establishment does tend to sort of have this sort of, you know, they do tend to have certain ideas that they cling to very dearly and are very reluctant to see and acknowledge, any ideas that might go against that, any evidence that might contradict those. Unfortunately, this does kind of seem to be the case. And so I don't know, in the future, we might discover that vaccines weren't as great as we thought they were. Still, overall, it's looking like it's better to get vaccinated than not. But yeah, when do I sleep? I'm tired. I should be sleeping. Good point. I really should be stopping the stream pretty soon. Um, yeah, that's the other thing. I'm not sure I can be bothered having yet another discussion here. What is he on Trump
When they
about?
least expect it, when they can't distract the public. Biden refused to leave office. This is all predictions. And then this will prove that the government has become incapacitated and the military will have to do a takeover. There's a reason the government is about to be shown to be incapacitated, and Trump legally put in laws, put in a plan for this scenario that exists right now because he.
Oh, so just really is a Q person. He's a fucking Q person. Jesus Christ. Anarcho, you sent me to a fucking Q person. This dude's likely just gonna get like, what is this, first uncensored AMA? This could be potentially against TOS and stuff. I don't know. There's potential risk that this person might not last very long. This might also explain the high viewers and low followers. Like, people like this just don't last much. Twitch doesn't care much about TOS these days. Hey, I got suspended for a week for a TOS violation. So, come on. So, yeah, this guy's a cute tard. Wait, isn't that sort of a thing that you're not supposed to say? But anyway. Uh, well, I can't deal with that level of crazy. I just don't have good discussions with crazy people. It just like doesn't get anywhere. The only, again, like I've said, the only good discussion I consider to like the only really satisfying discussions I have is with Archer CA. Archer CA is a great dude. Fucking have a crush on Archer CA. You can all go and follow Archer CA. Really, plenty of right-wing channels calling for actual civil war and spreading COVID misinformation never got looked at, let alone suspended or banned. What the fuck? Why did I've been the subject of tons of like trolling and stuff and trying to get me people trying to get me banned and stuff. But no, I saw somebody doing some sort of nasty sort of Nazi rhetoric shit and that person got banned. Like it just started the stream and immediately just right away, bam. It was over. Thankfully, I only got suspended for a week, and I've been reinstated, and that was already a few months ago, and I haven't had any trouble since. So I think they like, yeah, they realize that I'm not that much of a nasty person. Well, I don't think I can. Oh no, come on. Like seriously, anarcho? Do you really anarcho? Did you really want me to debate that? Like I might as well just debate a cat or something. Like this guy didn't get banned for saying noncing was okay. Literally, noncing was like taking kids to McDonald's. What? I don't. What does that mean? Chips? What is that about? This guy didn't get banned for saying noncing was okay. Literally, noncing was like taking kids to McDonald's. What is? I don't understand what that means. Chill with Peter. Damn, and I followed this. I'm gonna unfollow. I'm sorry. I'm just. I can't follow this stuff. Come on, that's just too. So, oh, Senza Rules banned me, didn't it? No, it'll be funny. No, it's not funny. It's not even funny. He's just gonna like get pissed off and like, just ask Peabody. Thank you for following. Nah. No, it's I don't find it funny. I don't find idiocy to be actually funny. I find it's horrifying that people believe in this stuff. It's not funny. Like if it was done ironically, it could be funny, but this is just makes me feel bad about the world and everything. It just that's not so not funny. Fresh faces, new ideas. That the Nathans are really good streamers. Streamer, thank you. Wait. Oh no, I thought you meant me. I thought you meant I'm a good. All right. Okay. Well, I am a good streamer anyway. Let's thank myself for my flattering interpretations. I'm banned. Unbanned request I made at 6:55 a.m. on August 8, 2021 was denied. Okay, another idiot. Another idiot. Oh, and I'm following? Oh, Jesus. Well, I'm not going to keep following that. Of course not. What a fucking moron. Who is this moron? Fucking moron. I don't even know what nonsense. Yeah, what is nonsense? Okay, fresh faces, new ideas. Who's the sensitizer? Oh, this is too small. Oh, crap. Okay, let's go to fresh faces, new ideas. Well, the good thing about getting banned from all these streams is that it means that I have to worry less about choosing which stream to go to. You see, I just don't have to worry. Nothing to worry about. These people I'm all banned from. So now they're recommended, but why am I not going to them? Because I'm banned. Actually, no, these ones I'm not banned. These three I am. No, this one I just got suspended, but that was such a stupid suspension. I really don't want to go back. Chud Logic seemed like a real chud. Okay. Okay, what are we doing? Again, just the basics. UBI globally. UBI, income cap, wealth cap, globally. That is what we need.
The only way for them to survive is to take nutrients from another person. Because what you're doing in just the coma analogy is you're cutting out the mother. The mother's in existence. This thing cannot exist without the mother. That is the key difference. It requires a second and that's not even like a good enough argument for me. The thing, the key thing is this thing. I'm obviously being hyperbolic. Whatever. This entity cannot exist without outside influence. It requires a second. It requires a source. Like you cannot just take a thing and put it in a petri dish and bam, you have a baby. Like that's the difference. That's where it comes into the difference. That's why it's parasitic, because it requires the something else to give it nutrients.
Okay, how? Okay.
Let's see what it says. Any civilized society restricts the individual's freedom to choose. Right. I understand. No, but like that's really the way to look at this. If you're going to argue the coma thing, you have to understand it's not the machines keeping it alive. It's another person. The only way to argue that it's directly to the coma thing is if the fetus is incubation. And I'm not arguing that its well-being doesn't.
Wait, he's got
I'm
lots of
saying
people.
that
He's got
if
more viewers than
the
me.
existence of a creature
Yeah.
is required of something
That
else,
I did at that
the
many
thing that has the ability that
followers.
the creature's existence on has the ability to decide whether or not that thing exists, because it's ultimately harming that creature. That's why, again, and I don't know if you've caught everything I've said, my argument for this has simply been the existence of a creature, the existence of when a person is considered a person is at viability, regardless of what the technology for that is. If you can remove it safely from the parent, from the mother, if we can. And I'm not arguing you can't, but I'm making a factual difference between the well-being of it and whether it's a person or not. I don't think it's a person until it's viable. It depends. My overall argument is for viability has to be the cutoff point. And the reason can be because this thing requires another existence to exist. And without that, the larger entity that is required to give all the resources to make this thing exist should have a say in that. So if we have the technology to make the viability a different, a shorter period, I'm fine with that. If we make it, which argument are we? No. Again, the reason you consider, you're referring to the fetus suffering? I don't know if fetuses can suffer. Right, the age of viability. At that point, it's viable. They should either remove it or. But the 6 weeks is. No, I'm not arguing for murder. Again, this is not murder because it's not a person. That's where I'm arguing. If it's not a person, yeah. Right, but so again, part of this comes down to technology. If the technology can pick up the brain functions prior to the ability for us to make it a viable thing, that's where you end up with a problem. I think whatever it's right. So but the reason it's 6 weeks is because we have the technology to figure out what we consider to be brain function. It's not a person because it cannot. If it's going to be a person, it has to be able to generate. How do I say this? It's not that it's okay. So it's not that it's you have the ability to be a person, but you cannot be a person solely on your own. You require the outside influence of another entity. In this case, either the mother or some type of incubator. So until we have the point, so the mother. Right. So I still, but the brain function, when we refer to brain function, like it's not a conscious being. The dependency does not, because I mean you're dependent throughout basically the entirety of your childhood, because it's basically a parasite. I don't, maybe I'm talking myself into a corner. I don't. I've never really had this. Yeah, but it's an implication. If we had the ability to prove that, and again, I think if we had the ability, that's again a lot of what I've said is the fact that it is. But what you're arguing is potential. If we had the ability to prove it either way, then that would be different. And I think the ultimate answer is to create technology that allows for viability as soon as possible, because that would allow for people to remove the fetus. Well, I'm conscious. Again, this is a much deeper conversation. The reason I think it's not a person is because it's not able to. Yeah, but that's a different theory. So then a fetus wouldn't be conscious either.
Yeah, like solipsism. Yeah. Like you can have brain function, lack consciousness after
Your
birth.
argument is I'm the
Yeah.
only conscious person.
If
By
if
definition,
you're
a
when
fetus
when you're
wouldn't be
in deep sleep, dreamless sleep, yes, you know, or in a coma or something. Yes, you can have brain function, lack consciousness.
Because it's required for
Yeah.
another
I know.
entity to exist for
Yeah.
its existence. It cannot. The other entity has to have a say in it. And the difference.
Yeah,
Between
solipsism, the idea that you're the only person that exists. It could also be that external reality might be not exist even at all.
So no, 1 and 2 are separate. The reason is your implication in 2 is that 1 already is true. So the second would be a more accurate way to look at this is you would, the only way the second one implies
Should I try to have a
believe
discussion?
that life begins at conception.
It's incapacitated, lacking humanity.
Right? So if you don't believe
Well,
that, the second thing
it
cannot
depends what you
emerge
mean by
because you don't
incapacitated.
believe the
It's
thing is a
like
person.
literally the person doesn't
The
have
real
a
question
brain that
does a
functions
person
anymore.
have
Then
the
yes,
ability to remove
but otherwise no.
a foreign object in their body that is dependent on them to live. That's really what it is. Does this foreign object that is dependent on me, do I have to carry it? Because if we went with the coma analogy. If somebody was in a coma, right? And I understand that, but let's put it this way for the coma thing, for the beginning of conception. If somebody is in a coma and the only way for them to survive is to be hooked up to you for 9 months and to draw nutrients from you, do you have the right to deny that person their existence? I think the thing that would cause the least amount of suffering would be for the mother to make the decision. Because, again, like to your conscious argument, it's right. So if a woman, the person agrees that. So what happens in a case of rape? What about a case of rape? What about a case of incest? What about
Yeah,
a
it seems
case
like pretty
of
smart. It's pretty smart. This is not bad.
right? This is part of the problem with this law or these laws. They don't
Yeah.
make that exception. You have to be able to make that exception. If you're not making that, and again, fundamentally, the question of whether or not you should have abortion versus banning abortion to lower the numbers of abortion
Wait,
is
what are you talking
fundamentally
about?
incorrect. Banning abortion
Because Michael Schumacher, like,
Oh wait, did I
once you're
click?
gone,
Is that
you're
what happened?
like, there's nobody there. Okay. Like, literally, there's nobody there. You see what I mean? Once you're like, and get flicked, they're fishing.
So
What?
what are these?
What is that?
They're rickrolled?
Oh no, he's talking. It's not about me. Apparently, Schumacher canon does communicate.
these-
I haven't even followed it. Is
Oh, okay.
that true? Like, yeah, it depends. Like, if he can, then yeah. But if the person is just completely vegetable, then no. You know, it just depends on. It just really depends on that essentially.
Well, what about incest? Okay. Well, why not? It's a thing that happens. Also, what is the age that you think a person should be a parent? And if you believe that those are the only time abortion is viable,
What's the right term?
Does the parent then, is the state that's requiring them not to get an abortion, are they then responsible for helping them raise that child? The answer should be yes. If you're going to force them to carry the child, you have to help them be responsible for it. Nobody was arguing that. I'm just referring to, like, the most obvious reasons against abortion would be rape and incest. And again, I think we've done a pretty good job. I want to see if there's anything else on this. Oh, the arguments for social issues is nonsense. This might be the worst straw. I have to show you this. I mean, because it's an issue. You cannot see how it's.
What do you see?
Yeah, but they still have to go through the issue of the. So, if we're going to talk about that, what age is acceptable for that to happen? What if it's a 14-year-old? What if it's a 12-year-old? Why? That's part of why the viability thing matters, is because the ability to, if you're going to argue,
Like,
that
you're
have
pretty
to be
good. I
adopted,
quite like
the
this.
state
Oh
is
yeah, I gotta follow.
required to
I'm
make
gonna
sure
follow.
that child is taken care of, and they have to pay for all the
And thought of that.
stuff that leads up to that child being born.
His ideas aren't new. Finally.
Oh, Nathaniel, thank you for the follow. So, hold on. We'll get to that in a second. I do.
Yeah, it's kind of
Well,
true that
why
there are
would
new.
it be?
Well, my stuff is the gore thing. I think gore thing is
Why would it?
pretty
Because
new.
if incest
And
leads
certainly there are
to
ideas that aren't
a
talked about
child,
much. Also,
then it falls
I'm
into that
global
category.
UBI.
Again,
That's
I do want
not
to point this
talked
out.
about much. You know, my
This
whole
is like one of the
globalism thing
worst
is actually
arguments of it.
nobody's talking about globalism.
Abortion health solves the problem. Overpopulation raises the quality of life. This is also polling wrong. This anti-abortion belief that the minority can be imposed on the majority. Well, then why is a product of why is incest different than rape? Right, we've gone. Hold on. Yes, it can be, but maybe you don't want to carry your brother, your father's, your cousin's child, so you should still have the ability.
There we go.
Yes. Okay.
Okay.
And what about?
What is it saying?
Oh man, we got decent. We got 10. We had 10. We haven't did 10 in a while.
Let's see. A plenty of you by discussion on Twitch, how Yang even ran for presidency on it. Yeah. Sci-fi authors have long talked about globalism. Yeah, of course, but it's
So
not talked about seriously in public discourse. I mean, UBI has been talked about more seriously now. You offer UBI for us with. That's good to know. How about income caps and wealth cap? What do you think about that?
Okay, so let's go under the if the ultimate argument comes down to if you believe it's a person, because that's what stems from everything else. Now, we can agree, we can believe it's a person. However, do you consider it murder if they remove the fetus and are able to incubate it somewhere else?
What? Oh, you want the more audio? Oh yeah, you can't hear this too well, maybe.
I mean, that's a good argument. He's right. I mean, if someone wants to come on and argue onto the Discord, you're
let's do that.
come on to the Discord.
Okay, I'm tired. I haven't slept in a long time.
We've gone longer than I expected to, anyway. But we got, I haven't had 10 followers 10 viewers in a while. I'm more than happy to discuss it. I mean, I don't know how we ended up.
Debate him on
to
Discord.
Be sure, we are still 3 people short of the 100 goal. So if you are not
serious?
following me,
what the fuck are you talking about?
Follow me now.
It is.
I want to hit that 100 today. It make me very happy.
I don't really care about I care about followers, but I don't talk about it because I don't see the point in saying let's hit this.
Well,
how's
it
that gonna
ultimately
help?
comes down to the argument of whether or not it is.
Oh wait, why do I have so much?
A person. That's really what it comes down to. If you believe it's a person, then you can.
Okay.
Then the question of whether it's murder or not. And I believe at some point it's a person. I don't believe right away.
Messages failed to load.
The dividing.
Wait.
Because ultimately,
which one do I go to?
While a child is in your womb, at whatever stage, it is technically a parasite. As long as you don't like to hear that phrase, it is just sucking nutrients from the host body in order to. Whether that host body is a person or it's a machine, still what's happening. And the question is ultimately, when do you think it's viable? And I think it's viable when it can be removed and safely brought somewhere else. I think the bigger question is, if your goal is to ban abortion, how are you going to make up for the I don't think he thinks that. Unless they have a channel that I've never seen anything. Hold on. Finding 1 and 2, you're saying it isn't a person since it's not viable, then you're also saying that it's okay for them to kill that person, but you're also saying the person isn't a person. Okay. It's not a person. Are you to come on to talk? Alright, hold on.
Oh, you
1
there?
second.
Oh.
You there? Do you hear me?
You there? Yes, I'm here.
Yes. Okay, cool. All right. So I'm Nathan L. Not Nathaniel. Actually, that's a stupid thing. I should have realized when I chose the name. So anyway, yeah. So I mean, you saw I sort of talked a bit in chat already. So I'm a sort of middle grounder when it comes to abortion. I'm sort of, not a fan of abortion, but I'm not a fan of completely banning abortion either. So I like the idea of having a gestational age limit, and I would actually favor having a relatively low age limit. And so that is what I've been mostly advocating for. I've been suggesting.
I'm trying to. Hold on.
Go ahead.
I'm trying to see if they can hear you.
Oh yeah. Can they hear me? Okay. Apparently, one person says yes.
Yeah. All right. So let's be clear on some things. I just want to preface a lot of this. The abortion debate is not something I've had a lot. Oh, actually, you know what? I could raise it. I lowered it for the last guy I was talking to because he was like really loud.
Okay.
I've looked into the science of it. A lot of this is based on like personal philosophy. So if we're going to argue like direct dates, I don't have the actual. I could look them up. I'm sitting in front of a laptop. Fuck, of course I could. So I understand the argument. Look, I have no problem with the idea of banning abortion as long as you do a whole bunch of different other things. If you're going to, help support the mother, help support the child,
Yeah.
in that if you're going to, I fundamentally agree with those things. Again, the science or the data does not purport that banning abortion is the way to lower abortions. There's a lot of better methods to do it. The ultimate point that I have for is when is a fetus viable? Because I think that the parasite comparison is the best comparison because it's basically like you cannot put a sperm in an egg and then bam, you have a baby in 9 months. It requires outside
Of course.
intervention, whether that is a machine or it's a person. One of those things is required. So while it's a person, it's still technically kind of a parasite. I think that the person has the ability to decide whether it wants to keep that parasite until the point it is viable. And at the point it is viable, it can no longer be destroyed. It has to either be carried fully to term inside the mother or it should be removed and incubated.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
No. I think potentially, well, again, my point is that that's just not necessarily the best criterion to focus on. And like you focus on this idea of whether a thing is viable or not, whether it's a parasite or not. And I prefer to focus on whether this thing can suffer or not. Because to me, ethics is about that fundamentally. For me, the fundamental ethical principle, I adhere to the principle of what's called utilitarianism, about maximizing the well-being for everyone, minimizing suffering for everyone. And so for me, the question is really, what minimizes suffering, especially how, does this avoid suffering or not? And so to me, it's obvious that in the early weeks, after conception, there's no functional brain. So presumably there's not going to be any consciousness, so there's not going to be any suffering. So for me, from that perspective, it's completely acceptable to abort in the first weeks. But then we have to have some cutoff, and to avoid it being arbitrary, so you have your cutoff at the age of viability, and I like to have a sort of non-arbitrary cutoff. I like to have a cutoff that is based on biology, kind of just like you. In fact, you're doing the same thing, but you're just basing yourself off a different criterion. And so, like what I've been saying is that my criterion is whether or not something can potentially suffer, and we don't know if it actually does suffer or not, but we can be pretty sure that it doesn't suffer before there is a functional brain. And we know there's a functional brain, based on, like medical science that like can actually determine whether or not
That's about, you said it
happening.
was 8 weeks. So I'm trusting you.
It's
That's
8
an
weeks.
accurate
It's 8 weeks.
representation.
Yeah, it's 8 weeks of gestational age, which is 6 weeks post conception. Yeah, I've looked into this already.
Oh.
So that appears
So
to.
the question I would have to that is, how often is a woman to know that she's pregnant prior to that point?
Okay, so that's a good question, and I've also looked into that. And so what I looked at, and this is a very good graph about abortions in the United Kingdom. And what we saw is that just the graph actually just charts
Is that something
the ages.
you can drop, or you can tell me where I can find that?
I could link it to you if you want. If you just
Yeah,
give
link
me
it just so I can bring it up for chat to look.
Yeah, I'll just probably gonna require just a little.
Take the time that you need.
Okay. Just give me. I'll just be a few seconds. I'll be pretty.
So I'm gonna mute. I'm gonna mute myself, and then you just let me know when.
Okay. Okay, it's literally just on Wikipedia. Just let me get the actual link to you. If I can find it. Okay. Okay, copied it. I'm gonna paste it. There we go. There we go. There's a link. I got it. Okay.
All right, let me unmute you here, and I will pull it up. Give me 1 second. So this is what exactly is this? Is the chart that shows what?
Okay, so that chart shows essentially how many abortions are performed at each week of gestational age. You see, it's and so what we see here is that actually 80% of abortions are performed before 8 week gestational age. In fact, so 4/5 of abortions, even with a relatively low gestational age limit like I'm proposing, which would be 8 weeks, you'd still get 80% of abortions that would still get done under that scenario. So
This is about here. This is based on 2019, so it's about here.
there.
Then yeah, so about 80% of abortions. Okay.
Yeah.
So again, my only question with this is, and then I think this was what we discussed is, do we know that the thing can actually feel pain? And I guess that's kind of up in the air, right? Whether oh shit, hold on. Every time I open this up, it fucks everything up.
Well, it's kind of like,
Uh,
it's like animals. Like, do non-human animals feel pain? How do we know? We infer, right, from their reaction to how, you know, you do something, and
right,
they will
but
respond in a
if your
certain way.
argument is that your argument is which we have to cut off, this is the point where it would ultimately feel some type of consciousness in order to feel pain. Um, then we would have to be able to we should be able to measure that in some way, whether it's like an animal's reaction or whatever. Because then the same application applies to, does it, if you eat a chicken egg, does that egg feel pain?
Well, normally chicken eggs aren't fertilized, so no. But but like, yeah, I see what you mean. And yeah, if we can actually make some studies on that would actually try to determine not just whether there's brain function, but there's a response to pain, then that would be better. But I think an important caveat to bear in mind is that for a long time people suspected that newborns didn't feel pain, which led them to actually perform operations without anesthetic on newborns. For some like things like pyloric stenosis, which require operations right after birth. Because newborns actually reacted quite poorly to anesthetics and sometimes would die from anesthetics, they decided that because there's no compelling evidence at the time for newborns feeling pain, the evidence was conflicting, they would actually perform operations with no anesthetic, which was presumably traumatic. In fact, some people now report that they have severe emotional problems as a result of that, and some of them report having dreams of being like operated on by like scary people and stuff. In their adulthoods now, because this was happening like in the 50s, and so like just because it doesn't really look like they feel pain doesn't necessarily mean that they don't.
But again, the issue with that first, with the argument of newborns, is basically just a requirement of more data and an advancement of science.
Yeah.
So if again, I think the biggest distinction for the 8 week gestation period would be for more science to be done. And I have no problem with them studying this. And ultimately, if science decides, yeah, this is like a person, like it's conscious, it can feel pain and stuff, then we have a different argument. But I think until while we're kind of like speculating, I think it is better for us to lean toward the mother, because
Okay.
like,
Yeah.
if you,
I mean, I see your point. Yeah.
I mean, I don't. Right, like I'm always for more data. And if we had the data to back, and if the data ultimately showed that, hey, look, this is a fucking thing at 8 weeks, I was like, yeah, fine. Then we have to get the technology to be the point that the mother can decide to remove it,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I
and
see
it
what you
can
mean.
be a gestation period.
But again, like the thing is that potentially, like we are talking about like killing something that is, even if not conscious, it is, and if not like viable, it's still something that is alive. So I mean, it is killing something in that sense, right? Even if you don't want to call it murder, you are killing it. And like just like with
I mean, but like, yeah, but ultimately that argument comes down to, uh, again, whether you think it's a person or not. Because just because you're saying, oh, we're killing a living thing, we kill shit all the time.
Yeah,
It's
but I mean,
you
of
could
course,
argue that you're killing viruses with or bacteria that's alive. Like it's
yeah,
not,
sure, sure.
I don't think that's a legitimate argument unless you believe it's a living, breathing person.
Of course, but
That's
like
where
for me, it's the question is not whether it's a person or not, but it's whether it's conscious or not. So I mean, I think killing non-human animals is problematic as well. And I think I mean, you should think that if you're concerned about abortion, you should be concerned about like non-human animals as well, and you should at least be sympathetic to like the vegan cause, which is my
Oh no, no,
thing, which I'm.
I'm totally sympathetic.
Mhm.
I think in all likelihood to really save the planet, we're probably gonna have to move toward a more vegan diet just because of how we produce meat anyway. I'm
Yeah,
not excited for it. I like eating meat.
yeah.
I
Well,
am
me
well aware
me
the
too.
animals are treated like shit. I can
Mhm.
differentiate that. Um, that is a totally different argument. I would love to have a conversation with the vegan. That seems like a fun argument to have at least once as a streamer. Um, yeah, I think ultimately the differentiating point that we have is basically data. If it comes out that the data that this is a thing that can feel pain, it is more or less conscious or has some type of awareness, then we're having a different conversation. But if just because um, uh,
Yeah,
it's
but see, I
hold
would.
on, let me
Okay, sorry, you're saying something. Yeah, sorry.
no, I have to allow this thing because it flags Hitler as a word. Um, so
Oh yeah,
sometimes people say things and
yeah. I know,
fuck.
I know that thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Sorry. Yeah. I guess my.
yeah, look, Hitler was a vegan, but he wasn't bad because he was a vegan.
Yeah. Like, yeah, it's not because he was a vegetarian that he was like a bad. But yeah. Anyway, like I would say that in a way, I would favor to err on the side of caution. Like I don't know. I feel in a way if you are like killing something, and then there's a bunch of like poor fetuses that are experiencing being killed and they're really suffering from that. I would argue that if it turns out that that is actually what is the case and that they are actually like, feeling it, then I would argue that that is worse than mothers being forced to complete their gestation. And as such, I would consider it to be actually be erring on the side of caution to limit abortions rather than to allow them, as you're suggesting, and limit it at the age of viability instead. But I mean, I understand your argument, but like I,
Right. Look,
yeah,
the whole thing around. So I have no problem. The ultimate issue I have with your error on the side of caution is the thing that I think you brought. I don't. It might have been you that you brought up is if
uh-huh.
you're going to force it to gestation and to birth,
Mhm.
are you going to provide for that child up to and after that point?
Well, absolutely,
Right. That's
absolutely,
if you're those are these conversations go hand in hand.
of course.
There's two separate conversations. If you believe it's a person, do you also believe that if you're forcing the person to make an hold on, I'm just gonna pause for a second while I plug my laptop in. It's going to ultimately be a person, you are then and you're going to force them to have this person, you are then responsible to help the existence of that person. That is one of the largest disconnects that exist between the people who argue for no abortions and their actual issues.
I know, I know.
I think that changes the conversation, but I also do believe the women um, do have a right to decide whether they want to do this. And I think that's part of where the viability option comes in. I think instead of putting so much effort into stopping abortions, you put that into science to decide at what point we can make these things viable, so that even if a woman does not want to get pregnant or does not want to bring the baby into this world, the science is able to do that if she wants to remove it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's the easiest solution. Is the earlier you can have an outside viability, the less of an issue it becomes.
Yeah, yeah, that also makes sense, of course. I agree with that as well, and we should be also striving to potentially achieve that. Um, but yeah, obviously, I mean, I very much loathe the sort of ideology that accompanies the anti-abortion rhetoric, in as much as it doesn't actually care for people once they're born. Typically, they're perfectly fine with letting people just sort of rot away in horrible conditions. Again, for me, it's just about ideological posturing. This whole anti-abortion things pertaining to care about the poor babies. They don't give a shit about the babies. I fucking hate that. I mean, I wish I could be with them and say like, yeah, we love babies and we're actually going to help them, and we're going to help babies by providing like proper childcare. We're going to provide a basic income to people so that everybody at least has an acceptable standard of living. That is what I believe in. None of these.
Yeah, no, look,
Yeah,
this
go
is
ahead.
this is very simple. So, um, chips and gravy, just very quickly. The reason we're referring to it this way is generally the people who are most likely to have an abortion are lower and middle class, are lower and minority class people. They're people who don't have the wealth and the ability to give a child a successfully good life. That's just the way the data purports. So by advocating for things like that, but it doesn't matter whether they're more likely to donate. It's about an overall structure of the society in order to help the people at the bottom. That's morally the issue there. But look, like I think you and I generally have an agreement. I think the only disagreement we have is based on how much data is available to a certain timeline.
Yeah.
If there was more data, if you know if the viability was at 8 weeks where we can remove it and um, we can do it there. It's 8 weeks. I don't care. Like to me, until it is, until it's viable for something outside, I think the mother has the right because it is, um, it's her body, and this thing is kind of like a parasite. I mean, we can argue about that.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I
And
know.
also the other thing
I know.
too,
But yeah. Go ahead.
the other thing to argue about this is when they're always referring to abortions, it's always on the woman. Because I mean, technically, it's her body, but the men, obviously they don't get pregnant. There was a movie about this. Um, Eon, how are you doing? We're doing good. We're having a much longer stream than usual, and I'm loving it. We got way more views than I've had in a while. Um, there's a movie about it, was a Netflix movie that basically women would be able to become pregnant by themselves, and ultimately that's how men died out because they only gave birth to girls. But since we don't live in that reality, men are responsible for this as well. So the women should not be the only one punished. Obviously, if you're going
Yeah.
to argue this,
Well, I mean,
because she can become pregnant.
okay, yeah, like I'm before I forget, I'm actually advocating that once we have the technology to do so, which of course we don't for now, I would like to make everybody capable of gestation, basically making people like be hermaphroditic biologically, so they have both like the female and male function, so that way everybody could be potentially, become pregnant, and also could potentially impregnate somebody. I think that would be more fair. It makes more sense that everybody should be able to like bear that burden. So yeah, just as an aside.
It would also deal with the issue of blaming one side about having the abortion bait. Well, very quickly, I don't know who's still here. Um, uh, if you are new, the bigger is better thing does say 100, but however, 3 of those people are either not following me anymore, or one of them had to be removed because he was threatening violence. So please, if you're new and you're not following me, I still need 3 more followers so I can hit 100 today, and I do want to hit 100 today. So follow me, join the Discord. Anyway, look, I think overall, I think you and I have. Thank you, Ian, for the follow. I think you and I have come to the pretty much the same conclusion. I think the overall conclusion to this is that Texas law is bad for just a plethora of big reasons. Whether you believe abortion is right or not, this is not the right way to go about it. There's other ways to lessen abortion in a more ethical way. These are not the ways to do this, and the people arguing that we care about the unborn, it's literally just the unborn. They don't give a shit anything after it's born. So, pick your lane, and let's go on from there. Really, I think the overall difference that we have, or that I would have with anybody who wants to argue viability and doesn't believe in the it is a person on conception is simply the data where you want to draw your statistical data lines. It's as simple as that.
I mean, I'd actually like to provide just a counter argument to your idea that having, like making abortions past a certain age illegal, doesn't help actually diminish abortions. And so, how about murder? How about if we had statistics that showed that, for instance, making homicide illegal wasn't actually the best way to reduce homicides? Would then you support not making homicide illegal since it doesn't actually seem to help? So yeah, I that would make me uncomfortable. I think we should still make it illegal just because we recognize that it's wrong, even if it doesn't actually help reduce. It's not like the best policy to help reduce homicides. Kind of still just makes
Yeah,
me more comfortable.
I don't think those are. I don't think that those are comparable. There's certainly laws that you can argue don't minimize the intended effect, like the war on drugs. Certainly did not have the intended effect that it wanted to.
Of course.
But the homicide thing, like the only argument the only way you would compare them is if you said that there was if you believed that it was a person and it was his murder. But I don't think that is an accurate thing. I think homicide is different. Also, if anyone is new and wants to subscribe to the channel, please do. I'm pretty sure if you subscribe now, I think it's September, so I think you actually get a discount. Also, if you attach your Twitch account to your Amazon Prime account, you do it for free. Because then Jeff Bezos paid me, and you know what? Jeff Bezos should fucking pay me. The man makes enough money.
Yeah.
I think we've kind of gone in circles on this. Is
Okay.
there? Let's be clear. People in chat, if someone in chat has a different argument than the point that we're making about viability, if you truly believe it's a person at conception, I think at that point that is the only point where we would have an argument for. If somebody like that wants to come on and argue the point, I'm totally fine with having a conversation. Otherwise, I think we've kind of wrapped this up, and the whole point of this was just to the whole point was just to look at this document he sent me. And a lot of my issues with this document are it's straw manning. We don't have a date for this, and the information that's put into it is just kind of like bullet pointed. Like what? I cannot get over this. This is like. Well, thank you for bringing this up. I got a lot of good people out of just having this conversation for the last hour. The abortion help solves the problem of overpopulation is like the worst straw man I've ever seen in my life. But let's be clear to things on chat. Since while we're here and there's 10 fucking people, which I'm very excited about. I haven't had 10 people in a long time. If there's other topics you want to talk about right now, if Nathaniel, if there's something else you want to talk about, fuck it, let's go. We're open season. Anyone want to hop into the chat? We can talk conversations.
Yeah, I mean, I can talk about other stuff. Sure. I mean, we could sort of go off of various stuff that we've sort of vaguely, quickly touched on. So potentially, well, I was talked about UBI, which my sort of favored sort of kind of catch-all policy to sort of solve all. Like it's a simplification of welfare to just have one sort of thing, which is UBI for just everyone, and that would solve that issue of like what happens to like kids and stuff who are like in precarious situations. And it actually basically pretty obviously solves a ton of other things as well. So I'm very much a fan of UBI. I think to me, like the biggest problem of society, like, it's not the fact that, the workers don't get to own the means of production. It's not the fact that the government is becoming too big. No, it's like none of those things. It's really just the absence of a UBI to me. That is the number one issue. That's what we should really be most concerned about. And so, yeah. So go ahead.
So I've gone back and forth on this. First, I'm pretty sure he's memeing, but Chips and Gravy wants to know about your thoughts on pedophilia, which are obviously not anti-pedophilia, which I imagine you are as well. You seem like a rational person.
I'm not pro pedophilia. I'm not.
And that's actually another interesting point that we could talk to about the. Holy shit. That's that we can talk about for something else about child marriages is another interesting point. But so here's the thing, UBIs is very simple. The statistics show that just giving people actual money just makes a whole fucking world of difference. My only concern with UBI is whether or not it removes other already existing social safety nets. If it does and it is not equivalent to those or plus more, then it's not worth it. It has to at least either add on or be worth more than that. It's we simply need to like just giving people poverty. It has to. We need some type of social safety net.
Well,
it's that is how I feel about it. And then as for the biggest issue, I go back and forth on this.
yeah.
I think realistically the biggest issue facing us is climate change, and we're just
Okay.
I just can't see a positive out of it. But that's not a conversation I want to go to because I'd rather not be depressed for the whole day.
Okay. Yeah. 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 I mean, sure.
I don't know if you want to push back on the UBI or anything.
Well, the UBI, I could just list the things that the UBI actually like helps with. So UBI first, well, it eliminates basically all poverty below the UBI. It eliminates wage slavery, right? It eliminates this need that people have to work to be able to earn a living. It eliminates the stress of people precisely losing their jobs and ending up destitute. It gives workers more bargaining power by being able to just say to employers, well, now I can just leave and go on my UBI instead. So you better offer like decent wages, decent working conditions. At the same time, it actually helps employers as well because it relieves them of the burden of having to provide a livelihood for their employees. So the employer, at the same time, now we can actually get rid of sort of various regulations potentially. So I know this might sound weird, but I would be okay with this. I'm actually okay with keeping the regulations. It's more an argument that I like to present to more right-wing people to make them more enthusiastic about UBI. But like, if you have a UBI, it's okay. I mean, for me, it genuinely is okay to get rid of like working hour limits, work week hour limits, to get rid of mandatory paid leave, mandatory sick leave, mandatory pregnancy leave, all that stuff, any mandatory retirement pension stuff, all of that can go away. And because a person always will have a livelihood just by going on the UBI. Of course, the UBI has to be sufficient to ensure an acceptable standard of living. And then there's the issue of, compared to benefits that you get when you just are unemployed or something, it's better because A, it removes the stigma of just receiving the benefit if you're unemployed. If everybody gets the UBI, well, everybody gets it. Two, it removes the fact that the government has to snoop in to verify whether you deserve to get the benefit or not. Three, it also means that you don't have the disincentive to work that happens because if you stop getting the benefit when you start working, that's kind of a disincentive. You're like, maybe I'm not going to start working if I lose my benefit when I stop working. UBI, you still get it when you start working. And then there's the issue of dependency, where like often you'll have like in a couple where there's one partner that's working, the other that isn't. The partner that isn't working might be afraid to leave the partner that is working because that person won't have enough to survive off of without like working. It might be difficult to get back into the workforce. That, of course, is why we have alimony. So then that's a problem for the person who is the provider, because then that person might be penalized by having to provide for the dependent person through alimony. So by having a UBI, we can get rid of both the fear of leaving someone because then you won't have enough money, and also the issue of being burdened with alimony. So those are pretty much the sums of the benefits of UBI. Then there's sort of collateral effects as well, as presumably you'll expect to have better health outcomes through UBI. You'll expect to have less crime as a result of UBI, just because typically crime is kind of correlated with poverty. So you'll have all of those ancillary benefits as well. So for me, that is why that is amazing. Like, okay, ignoring stuff like climate change, when you just focus on like here economic policy,
structural issues.
Yeah. Then UBI is the most important. Yeah.
I have a couple things. So one, I just wanted to. I'm going to respond to chat very quick. The idea that UBI raises prices, so to refer to it as we have now, to say that we have UBI and prices are raising, misunderstands the fact that a lot of the the issues, the inflation stuff we're dealing with is due to the supply chain disruption, not to just expansive hyperinflation. Because otherwise we would see flat prices races and it changes based on different things. So that's not what the UBI caused. As for what you said, so there's a couple things that I want to push back on. I think we should still, even if we implemented the UBI, we should still have paternal leave because it's not just about the money thing. It is about like the actual bonding and health for a child to be able to be with both parents while it's in its it's that young. It's like
Yeah.
it's just a bonding issue. It
But
helps raise the child. And for the alimony, I think we still I think we can make alimony less, but I think even if you I don't think you eliminate because if you have a family, I think you're still, even if you're no longer you're no longer part of that family, you should still be responsible for helping a child
yes,
to
but
at least until 18. So I think you can argue about the numbers, and then the alimony payments would probably be less based on having a UBI, but I think those are still that should still be a requirement.
okay. So sorry. Yeah. So sorry. I tried to interrupt you a few times just to because I was afraid to forget the stuff that you're bringing up. So regarding the paid leave, I guess my point is that if you got a UBI, well, you can just live off of your UBI. You know, if you wanted to spend your time with your kids. Um, for me, the point is that the
Yeah, it
UBI
would
is
just be leave, not paid leave.
yeah, it would just be exactly, it would just be leave. But my point is that for me, then it would be okay for the employer to just not rehire the person. I guess for me, the idea is that we should be ensuring a decent standard of living for everyone. So the UBI has to be decent, which means that then it's okay if a person doesn't have a job and is left on the UBI. That's how it should be designed. See, it's really
How you
you see kind of that's the way I'm seeing it.
Look, I'm not arguing that it should be existence, and I'm sure that we would have to figure out ultimately how the company would be affected by it. But it would be, I think you still need some type of leave, whether it becomes paid leave or it's just the company, maybe the way you do it is the company gets like a yearly stipend for each to hire an employee for a year,
Hmm.
while you take that leave. But you do need some type of leave for parents because it's better for the mental health of the child to be raised by both parents during that stage.
Well, sure, but again, what if parents simply decide to live off the UBI while they're raising the child? Especially that considering that I would provide a UBI for the children as well, so they would get extra money for the children, though not as much as adults probably. But so
Right? No, I'm not
you
arguing
see,
that. I'm arguing simply like one of the things you said was the person being replaced.
yeah.
And my argument to that would be, well, either the government can pay the company to do it, or they can ultimately decide that they don't want to work for that year. That's just the question of what it would be. Like there would be some type of leave, but whether it be permanent or be covered by some other entity is would ultimately be the question.
Okay, but why? Maybe I'm not even understanding you properly. Um, like, why couldn't you? My point is, why couldn't you just have a person quit the job when they become a parent, and then they could just they could tell the employer, well, okay, I'm going to quit for 2 years, and if you want to take me back after 2 years, you can. But like, then nobody would be obliged to either come back or to rehire the person. I don't know. I just prefer simplicity in general. I just kind of maybe a mental quirk of mine. I prefer less regulation if it's not needed. And so that is why I kind of prefer just doing that, saying like you don't have any rules regarding leave. If a company wants to provide some kind of leave, it can, but you don't have any sort of mandated, leave that means that the company then has to be able to rehire a person or have to pay, or the government has to pay a person to leave or whatever. Just for the sake of simplicity. I mean,
For the
I can
sake of,
understand. Yeah. Go ahead.
if you're going to leave the job needs to be filled. Whether it is permanent or semi-permanent, I think is ultimately what the debate
Yeah,
would be, and
of course.
how, and I think that would come down to the actual, and that's why I think the government would step in, because if you decide that the person is going to be paid for is only going to take leave for like a year, well then it's like a temp position ultimately that the government would help create. If the person is permanently leaving that position, then it's irrelevant. Then you don't need anything else. I think the only time it becomes an issue is if it's a temporary leave.
But again, so what I'm saying is that I would argue that you could just simply just in the name of simplicity. Again, it's maybe not the best solution. It may not bring have the best outcome overall. But just to simplify things, I kind of am okay with the idea of not having the government necessarily have this kind of program. Instead, just up to a company to will voluntarily come to an agreement with an employee saying, okay, I'll hire you after 1 year, and up until then we'll have a temporary person instead. So that way it wouldn't be mandated. You see what I mean?
I wasn't even referring. It wouldn't even have to be a mandated thing. Whatever it would be,
Okay.
it would ultimately, if we're doing a government replacement program for that, then it wouldn't be mandatory. It would be an application, because it would require you to have whatever the structure you decide for how long the person wants to stay out of work for. So that would obviously change. So if you, I think it would just be easier for have the government decide, because what if you do it and the person who comes back and the guy who's replaced them was already better? I mean, there's obviously it's more slippery slopes to that, and I guess the ultimate thing is, after you have a kid, both parents should be able to leave. Ideally, having a UBI that could support both of them and the child would solve the work issue. But the question is, I'm just trying to figure out how it would work with the company and them coming back. I mean, if we get to the point where this is the biggest argument of our time, I think that's a pretty good win.
Yeah, definitely. I wish that was just the main thing that we're arguing over. Yeah, definitely. Okay, well, glad to see that overall we by and large we see eye to eye on this, by and large. And I guess another sort of question I had. Oh yeah. So regarding the alimony thing again, it kind of just brings me back to my conception, as I said, of the UBI, which is meant to afford an acceptable standard of living, which means that anybody on UBI is okay, which is again why I'm saying that alimony wouldn't be required at that point, is because kids also get their own UBI on top of that, so that's already the child support they get from the government through the UBI for kids. Um, so for me, I just consider that's not required. I would suggest if there's a split up, normally it should just be 50-50, care of the kids, to 50-50 custody, unless they prefer to do otherwise, or unless one person is clearly unfit to be. But it has to be clearly unfit, not the way it's done now. It has to be really a person that has like issues with violence or something, for that person not to be granted custody. Otherwise, it should naturally just be 50-50. And then, the kids just go from one place to another. The UBI is supposed to afford a decent standard of living, so all kids should be okay. So that's why I'm saying that it's okay to get rid of alimony at that point.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I still think at least some alimony is required, at least so that you have, some impact on how your child is raised, even if you don't want to actually physically be there or whatever the case is. Look, again, this is kind of similar to the paid leave thing. If this is the argument we're having, I think we're in a pretty good place.
Yeah,
But that's,
yeah.
I mean, we more or less agree on UBI.
Yeah.
Basically, at this point, we're arguing.
Yeah. We're arguing little details and stuff. Yeah. I mean, I would be okay with the other stuff. I mean, I just, we have our slight little quirks about what we prefer, but I don't think that's a big deal. Since we're on that, would you be willing to discuss what I consider to be the sort of negative counterpart to UBI, which is an income cap and a wealth cap, which is actually something that I've sort of belatedly come to support in the name of just limiting inequality, just providing hard limits on how much inequality can exist in society. Would you support that or not?
Yeah. Look, look, I have no plans anymore. It's yeah, I'm fine with that. Let me try to think what I was gonna make a point about. No, I think that's, yeah. That you fuck it. You wanna the thing I was gonna say is basically if we were on YouTube, we'd be doing video essays at each other. So this is fine. So let's get to whatever so you're talking about a income cap and a wealth cap.
Yeah. Just basically
So
100%
what would you?
marginal income
Oh,
tax.
and hypothetically,
So you see what I mean? 100% marginal income tax above a certain level. So just above a certain level, everything gets taken away if you end up above that level. So often you just wouldn't be if a salaries just stop at that level. But if you accidentally ended up having more money, well, too bad, you get 100% above the income tax cap taken away. So maybe if what you're asking is how much will the figures amount to? Is that what you're sort of asking?
well, that would obviously be the follow-up question if
Yeah.
to a statement like that.
Yeah. So again, so that of course requires me to bring something else up at that point, which is that I believe in globalism, which means in complete unification of like all societies everywhere, getting rid of like separate independent nation states, which would mean that also I would support having the same UBI elsewhere, the same tax scales everywhere, the same income cap and wealth cap everywhere. So basically, I had to look at this and I had to look. So what is global GDP per capita? How much could we afford globally in terms of UBI? I mean, so what I found out is that approximately global GDP per capita is roughly 20,000 US dollars a year. So then roughly what I figured is that so it's increasing quite well, over time, and essentially what I ended up concluding is that then when you adjust it for what's called purchasing power parity, because that actually the 20,000 refers to in terms of what's called purchasing power parity. So it's actually basically ends up amounting to more money because stuff is cheaper in many places. So as a result, we could probably afford about, and that this would involve allocating a significant proportion of the economy, about like 40% of the economy, or 50 if it was like 20,000, but I was just sort of hoping for more. 40% of the economy would end up having a UBI of 10,000 US dollars a year, or approximately $800 a month globally for everyone, which doesn't sound incredible, but which is actually huge for most people worldwide. It's actually like a couple times, it's like double or triple the average income of the average person in including non-workers in the world. So I mean that is very significant, I think. So I mean that could definitely make a few billion people very happy. So that would be the basic
Okay,
income.
hold on, let me just ask some questions to that.
Yeah,
So, just to be clear, you said $10,000 a year would be the
yeah,
UBI.
yeah. Some
Okay.
about.
Um, and then the what is the overall wage cap? That's what you
Okay,
what would the wage cap be?
so that would be so. I'm ideally would sort of lean towards. So, for instance, I remember that Ben and Jerry's actually had a ratio between the top earner and the bottom earner in their company at one point, like in one year, like in 1982 or something. They did that, and it was a 5-to-1 ratio, and I kind of like that. So I was thinking, yeah, 5-to-1 seems not bad between, and I know that seems like like a very low ratio, and I think lots of people just would go nuts to consider that, but I still think that ideally we should be aiming for that. So 5-to-1 would be then 50,000 a year after taxes. So 50,000 a year take home income would be the income cap. Again, I know people will say that that's nuts. You're nuts. That's very low. I like to point out that most people globally are earning way less than 50,000 a year after taxes. In fact, that's about the average income in the United States, which is much richer than most countries globally. So really, it's not that bad. I mean, most people can get by with much less than that. So I mean, we really shouldn't fret over the fact that a few people are going to be earning a lot less. So that would be ideally, but I also recognize
I
that
mean, it would
potential.
be a lot of people earning them.
Well, a lot of, yeah, but not in proportion. I mean, it
I mean,
only
if you unless you're
proportion globally. It
right,
wouldn't be that.
if we're talking in proportion.
If you're talking about the proportion of the percent of people globally that would be limited by the cap, it would actually be pretty small, right? It would be like maybe 5% of people. So most people would be much better off thanks to the UBI now than people would be worse off thanks to the cap. Um, but I also recognize that I mean economics, like overall economic stability is important. Overall economic, like you don't want to crash the economy if we have clear signs that like having an excessively low cap is really like stifling the economy, then okay, then we raise it. If it's clear that it's because of that that's caused, then sure, we raise it back up until the economy does all right. But I think probably it can work at about that level. Less than that would become probably problematic, which is why I think that we need that kind of inequality, of 5-to-1 inequality, which still is still sizable, right? I mean, so 5-to-1 is big. I mean, think about like a person who weighs 5 times more than another person. I mean, imagine a person who weighs like I don't know, 100 pounds versus a person who weighs 500 pounds. Like that's a big difference. So imagine that difference in terms of money. Like that's lots of inequality, so lots of motivation to work and do something for the economy that will allow you to earn that money, right? Which is what we want to keep. I'm not actually a socialist. I don't know if maybe you are. I'm in favor of maintaining private enterprise market economies, and
I'm just
as a
like that.
result, I actually like keeping in the profit motive as well. So that's sort of why I'm thinking in these terms, and which is sort of why I'm advocating for a sort of different set of policies than what like many socialist people here will be doing on Twitch. Even though I think we agree fundamentally with the fundamental ideal of kind of creating fairness for everyone. So yeah. Sorry, I'm talking a lot.
So, okay, I do have a couple thoughts. Like to me, the 50,000 seems low.
I know.
Just trying to think like, as we know, everyone's favorite fake socialist just paid 2.7 million dollars for a house in California. But I guess if we're talking overall, Roboxman, thank you for the follow. I'm a Bernie bro. The B meds. The it just seems low. So I guess but obviously I'm thinking mostly America centric. I understand a lot of the rest of the world is a lot poorer. We are currently one person away from hitting that 100-person goal. I know it says 102, but there's 3 that aren't real. So please, if we have one more person, please hit that 100. But look, it's an interesting idea. Um, I think it would be fundamentally impossible to sell. um, a um, that's really I think it would be fundamentally impossible to sell. I would have to see like I understand the thought process behind it and the math, and I'm sure is more or less correct. It just
Well,
I don't know
again,
how we would
my
ultimately get there.
point
It would be a long already.
is that of course it'd be hard to sell for the 5% who would become poorer, but on the other hand, it's a pretty decent sell for the 90% who become richer. I mean, like it's still a majority, right, of people who would be much better off if you can actually.
Right. It would require. I would need to see like a. If you're looking at, like you said, you're a utilitarian. You're
Yeah,
worried about
yeah,
where lessening suffering, and I
yeah.
obviously see the appeal in that.
Hmm.
Uh, but I don't. I would have to like ideally see some more data to how it would affect like other sectors of the economy and stuff, and how things would still kind of function as obviously it would be a global shift the like of which we've never seen before.
Yeah.
And just even to try to attempt something like in America would just be I'm not saying it's not worth the fight for because it is it's an interesting goal. I just think it
Mhm.
would be a very defiant. Let me just say something very quick to chat.
Go ahead.
Those of you who are new, we're just going as long as I fucking have talking to people. So if you have a topic, join the Discord. I do think in about a half hour, if we're still at this, I'm gonna go get a sandwich, and then I will come right back if we're still talking to people. But that is not a hard cutoff. I just want some food. Um, but yeah, if you have a conversation, there's something you want to talk about, hop into the Discord, and then we'll pull you up. Nathaniel is talking. He does not get to monopolize all the time, unfortunately. But if somebody else wants to have a conversation, it's fine. If they don't, we can keep going.
Yeah. Also, if you just want to stop, like we can absolutely, do that. I mean, how about if
First
would
off,
you? Sorry. Go
we're
ahead.
2 away. Somebody went away. Fuck off. Who was that? Shit, now we're back down to 98. Who left? I'm sorry, you can keep going. I'm just
Yeah. Yeah.
futzing around with this.
Yeah. No, I see what you're talking about. Well, I don't know. Oh yeah. Well, there's a wealth cap thing as well. So I was thinking, basically, make the wealth cap about what a person could likely earn at the income cap over like a typical working lifetime of at the income cap. So like a few decades at the income cap. So that amounted to about $2 million So I was suggesting a wealth cap of about $2 million, which again makes you it's just pretty firmly middle class at that point.
Okay. So, but this would be so everyone would basically have $2 million.
No, they wouldn't. Most people would have less than $2 million. I mean, most people now have much less than $2 million. It's not like suddenly people
Well,
would.
I guess okay.
All people
So
who have
how would
more.
you? So
All
how would you ultimately end up with $2 million if there's a $50,000 cap? At which point anything over that um, would be taxed at 100%. How would you end up with that $2 million?
40 years. 40 years earning at the income cap would get you to $2 million if you're not spending anything, of course. So then, of course, you got to be spending some. Then it's going to be taking longer than 40 years if you're going to be spending. But of course, then there's the idea that you also can make money other ways as well, which is like potentially through inheritance. Inheritance, I wouldn't subject to any cap. Like it wouldn't it would be taxed like regular income. I would want to tax inheritance like regular income, and pretty high, like around 50%, but it wouldn't be subject to a cap. So you could earn a $2 million inheritance from somebody else. You'd be then taxed half of it, so you'd be left with 1 million, and then you'd only have 1 million to earn, and that would definitely be feasible if you're earning, at 50,000 years for 40 years, and you save half of it away, and then you end up again at 2 million. That's how you'd end up at that level, for instance.
Look, I think the only way to break the 50,000 barrier would be for somebody to die. I don't think that's really like an effective way to
Uh,
do it. So I don't even need a wealth cap if you're capping anything above 50,000.
Well, no, actually, no, you would. Why would you? Because some things could actually gain tremendously in value if you buy stocks. So my wealth cap also affects not just cash but also assets. And so if you like buy some shares that then become like super highly valued, then you could very well exceed
So
the
the
wealth
stock
cap.
market would be the only metric.
You see what I
So
mean?
things like the stock market or Bitcoin would be the only metric that would avoid your 100% tax rate.
No, it wouldn't. That's my point. That's my point. That's why we still have a wealth cap. Because otherwise, if you didn't have the wealth cap, just having the income cap wouldn't ensure that some people would become extremely rich in shares. Of course, then if they actually had to sell them, that would become an income. So in cash, they still could never become particularly rich. But just I don't even want people having too much in wealth, like in terms of shares, or if they buy like a painting that suddenly becomes like super expensive or something. Of course, it wouldn't become super expensive if nobody could afford it, right? But I mean, you see, it'd be mostly in terms of like shares. You're just not wanting people to, yeah, I don't know. It kind of just bothers me essentially. So I just prefer
With
having
the
it
wealth
like
cap,
that. So you have a wealth cap, which
discussing the
includes,
wealth cap,
yeah.
that just seems to make it kind of fall apart listening to how you describe the wealth cap. Because again, if you're just referring to just capping everything at 50,000, except for some like weird different little things, it's going to it's going to have different issues. It seems a little bit more complicated the further you discussed it, and that kind of made it fall apart a little bit. But I understand the ultimate idea behind it.
I mean, it makes it a bit more complicated, but that's not the point. That's why I have the income and the wealth cap. So because they're few little things that there are few things that escape the income cap, and then you catch them with the wealth cap. That's kind of the reasoning there. I've thought about whether we could just have one, and then I realized that nah, you kind of need both. I kind of thought about just having one or just the other, and in the end, it helps to have both.
I mean, so
That
ultimately, everyone would end up with $2 million through however many
uh,
generations it took. But that would still,
Well, no, it wouldn't. Well, because you would also have all these figures would track the global GDP per capita. Most people would be lower than that. Okay, most people wouldn't be accumulating that much wealth. So not everyone would ultimately be like that, right? Because you wouldn't just keep on accumulating more and more money overall. You're always redistributing all the time,
wow.
right? And so
But if everyone's getting the same more or less base salary, and people are kind of taken care of, they can figure out ways to to figure out how to transfer the wealth down to their for future generations, because that's ultimately how you would gather the wealth, is through death.
Yeah, of
Because
course,
that appears to be like
but remember that like you get each
so.
time there's an inheritance, it gets taxed 50% approximately. So each time you're losing a lot of wealth there. Like you're losing half your wealth each time that gets transferred.
Yeah, but
So
eventually, over enough time, the number would be smaller, so that you would eventually hit the cap. In like 2 or 3 generations, you would hit the cap at some point, depending
you
on,
might, if people
if you.
save a lot. If people save a lot, some people will hit the cap, others won't.
But
Um,
over time, ultimately, for long enough down the line, everyone would ultimately hit the cap.
Well, they would if the economy kept growing. But the thing is that if the economy grows, which you want it to, you're going to shift the cap upwards as well. So then they're not going to hit. They're going to hit the previous cap, but they're not going to hit the new cap.
All right. I mean, I guess that makes sense.
Yeah, I know. I mean,
Yeah. So
I've
RoboMax was a false home. That was frustrating. So we're still 2 away. But yeah.
oh, Robomax unfollowed you. Yeah, Robomax also followed me because I do a bit of streaming. I'm actually streaming right now. Like I'm streaming us right now, if that's okay.
Oh.
And
No, that's fine. Hold on. Let me send you. Let me follow you as
so
well.
people
Sorry.
also like people watching my stream, go and follow. Go and follow faces new ideas. Sorry. And yeah, go for it. Definitely. And so what was I really saying? I mean, I know roughly what we're talking about. We're kind of finished. Oh, somebody followed me. Oh, you followed me. Thanks. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
So
No, I think those are pretty good.
yeah, I mean, I
I
don't.
think we've covered.
We've covered that. Yeah, we've covered it essentially. I could go a bit more into detail about a few things, but I think that's the most important thing. I would be interested actually knowing if you had
I
a sort of similar, like, rather, because I have actually, like, as you can see, I've got a pretty like comprehensive and like very like kind of almost rigid, I would say, like plan. Like I've got one policy that I want, and I want this policy, and I don't want another one. So my point is, like, do you have something like that as well, like some sort of equivalent to what I said?
want Medicare for all. That's the one I policy I.
Okay, well, me too.
Um,
Well, me too. Of course. I mean,
it's
yeah,
the
yeah,
it's the one policy that I would obviously overly push for. But other than that, like, the climate change stuff is just too overwhelming. But anyway, that's a no. I don't have like a policy in the way that you've laid it out for like wealth and stuff. That is
okay,
not a thing that's happened.
okay. But yeah, I'm glad to hear that you support Medicare for all. Of course, I do too. How about the modalities? Like, how would you actually do it? Like, for instance, the way I would do it is actually just pay for it through taxes. I'd just do it sort of like, um, like literally, it just be part of your tax expenditure, and then it'd be part of like government expenditure that would be going to healthcare. I would make people pay just a small fraction of the actual healthcare cost, just to avoid having like people going to the doctor all the time and being able to get it for free. So that just to limit a bit of excessive, use. But yeah, that is how I do it. Would you agree with that model, or would you
Well, I
prefer
think
something different?
well, obviously taxes would pay for the ability to advocate, to negotiate drug prices, and then I think, what is the other one? It's I don't know about like people going to the doctor all the time, because they're sick. I think if that ultimately became an issue, we could figure that out. But no, it's mostly through taxes and what's it called? Negotiating drug prices. But that's pretty much how it's
Yeah,
essentially set up.
yeah. Okay, okay.
Right.
So, I mean, I imagine that you support like taxes that, where like richer people pay their fair share of taxes. I mean, having more like progressive taxes or something to pay
Yeah,
for it, or
obviously.
not. Yeah, okay. Good. So yeah, like with my thing, I would actually advocate for flat tax rate at that point, since we've already have so much redistribution with the UBI and income and wealth caps. I would just actually, to simplify things, I would have a flat tax rate at that point. But obviously, if we're not doing that, then I would have like a progressive tax. Yeah, definitely.
But
I want.
isn't your tax rate? But for your system with the capped salary, isn't there already a flat tax is 100% above
Well, it's, yeah,
50,000?
Yeah, but then of course that is not the main source of tax revenue, because most people as a result aren't, right. Salaries are not going to be higher than that, because it would be absurd that an employer would pay a salary that is above the cap, because then everything is going to be everything above that cap is going to be taken away. So salaries are going to be capped at that level. So most tax revenue will have to come from something else, and so what it comes from is for incomes below the cap. So it doesn't come from that 100%, it comes from incomes below, and they will have to be taxed too, but just obviously not at 100% rate. So I'm envisioning to pay for the UBI, most income would have to come from that, and so it would be roughly a 50% income tax at that point, flat tax rate of roughly 50%. Again, so it's big tax, but again, it's worth it. I think it's worth it. So yeah.
So the
yeah.
most you can make is 25,000.
No, because it's 50,000 after taxes, so it'd be 100,000 before taxes.
Okay. All right. I guess that makes sense, sir.
Yeah. So it's not that
All right.
restricted,
That's interesting.
yeah. So yeah, that's my ideal. That's my ideal. So hopefully that's kind of interesting for you to hear. I'm hoping to have other people get on board. What I'd really love is just to see like some of my viewers here on chat maybe actually like getting together and decide to actually do like some activism for this kind of stuff. I really think that this is what the world would benefit from the most. I've spent a lot of time refining this, thinking about what would really be the best set of policies, and after all this time, I've come to a conclusion that this stuff I'm talking about is the best. So I wish other people were talking about this already. And yeah, that's it.
No, I think look, that was interesting.
Cool.
I think we should have a. I think it's an interesting goal.
Yeah.
It's I mean I feel like we have pretty similar ideologies. It's just where we
Yeah, well, we've got like few.
differ on the margins and how to get to it.
Yeah, it's on the margins, but definitely overall, we agree on most things. I don't. Do you want to talk about climate change, or did you say that would depress you, so maybe you don't want to? Since you think that's
I'm not really into the climate change one. It's bad. We gotta deal with it. That's the extent. Joe Manchin is gonna put the planet at risk for $500,000. But that's a different issue.
Okay.
Not a,
all right.
a happy thought. I think honestly, you know what?
All
I
right.
do appreciate you coming on. I think I'm probably gonna head off. We
Yeah.
streamed for
Yeah.
4 hours
Sure.
today.
Sure. I've been streaming for a long time
Hey
too.
man, I appreciate you coming on. If you want to.
Yeah.
If you want to have conversations about something else.
Sure. I'm
always happy to have a
I
conversation.
also have my own like Discord thing. You can come on my, and also stream a bit. So you can also come on my thing if you want. So you're welcome to do the same.
Yeah, send me the link,
so,
and I'll join.
Yeah. All right. Well,
send me the link.
I'll probably see you around. All right. Take care. Bye. All right. All right. Well, probably see you around. I'll probably see you around. All right. Take care. Bye.
All right, chat. We're about done. This was way longer than I thought. It was certainly entertaining. Didn't expect to have 2 separate conversations. This is one of my longer streams. Next week, Thursday, we are still planning to have a conversation with the congressperson. Still working out timing. But till then, thank you guys. Have a good weekend. If I am streaming this weekend for a conversation with somebody, the best way to follow is to join the Discord or to follow me on Twitter at Faces Ideas. That's how I update everything. Thank you guys for being here today. Thank you, Nathaniel, for joining. But I will see you guys on Monday at 1 p.m.
Okie dokie. Well, I'm going to be stopping my stream too. So thanks everyone here for watching. Yeah, giving low people income a higher wage does wonders for the economy, since they will spend pretty much all of it. Rich people just sit on their fortunes. That's also true. You'd actually increase like demand. You'd increase GDP as a result. You'd actually increase the economy overall, on top of course increasing fairness. This is exactly what we need to do. This is exactly what we need to do. This thing, people are willing to pay that. They're not willing to pay Bezos, okay? They're willing to pay for an item. But Bezos happens to be the person that all the money for the items ends up congregating, okay? But it's not like Bezos made actually all those items. Bezos didn't actually work for all those items. It's not like he, with the work of his sweat and everything, created all those things that you buy from Bezos, okay? So actually, Bezos does not deserve that money. You agreed to pay for an item that you bought on Amazon, okay? So you agreed to exchange money for an item on Amazon, but you don't have a say then on where that money goes. You might agree to pay that amount of money for the item. It doesn't mean you agree that Jeff Bezos should get that money when Jeff Bezos is getting everybody else's money too. No, maybe you don't agree with that. And that is why collectively we can decide not to give Jeff Bezos that money. That's the whole point of having a government. The government is the emanation of the will of the will of the people who collectively decide that society, well, no, we're going to create fairness. Collectively, we decide that. We have control of the government through democracy. We can control the government, and we have our will be manifested through the government. Read all before responding. Why would I have to read all? In any case, it's gonna be stupid. Whatever you're saying. What's the minimum? Is it a livable wage made to do nothing? Of course. The minimum is a UBI. A UBI has to be a living wage. It's just not a great thing, right? Of course, many people just do nothing. Just like many right-wingers are nostalgic of the time when women didn't work, right? So it's actually fine to not have women work. Um, so what yeah, that's the incentive of survival. That's horrible. You're literally saying that people should have the stick of like literally not being able to survive to have to work. That is horrible. Okay, people should be able to survive. Okay, it should be a living wage. The basic income has to be a living income, right? And then you just have an incentive. You say, well, okay, if you want to earn more, many people do want to earn more, most people want to earn more, then you can work. That's the idea behind a UBI. Okay, if you don't support that, you're horrible. What about people working 70, 80 hours and making millions while doing it then? They could probably survive on 3 or 4 hours a week. Yeah, exactly. Not most people. Most people work dead-end jobs that doesn't pay the bills. People working 70 hours a week mastering their practice earn what they made. No, they don't. They don't earn what they made, okay? And how about the people who just like are able to just have passive income? You know, they would just make like investments and stuff, and they make tons of money without doing anything. Just make placements, have just a person do it for them. You know, a hedge fund manager, whatever. They just have somebody do like that kind of stuff for them. Um, and meanwhile, people actually work hard and they get paid nothing. That's so fucking unfair. Okay, and you love that. You love that unfairness because you're an idiot. Okay, you love that unfairness literally because you're evil and you're an idiot. That is it, right? So it's not that I'm intolerant, that I'm mean. It's that you're horrible. Okay, so I'm not nice to horribleness. Okay, I am mean to horribleness. Yeah, yeah. So there we go. There we go. Um, all right.